OTB AM.
The Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball.
Yeah, 7:30 on Monday mornings, OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. You're very welcome along. We're with you here until 10 o'clock. That voice you heard in the background waffling away was our producer extraordinaire, Colin Bowie. Good morning, Colin.
Hi, Shane. How are you?
And what a treat this is,
Wow.
What a treat this is. Co-host chair this morning, the wonderful Sarah O'Donovan. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, lads.
Welcome.
How are we?
Wow.
I'm a little bit disappointed, lads.
Oh.
No warning, no hair, no makeup. Where's the budget?
Yeah, we don't.
I would love you to do a to-camera appeal to the company to do hair and makeup. Would be fantastic.
I don't know how well we would look.
Can you imagine how much it would elevate us to the next level?
I mean, this is how good we look without the hair and makeup.
This is sans makeup. Like,
that's.
Can you imagine with makeup?
A 5:30 start deserves.
It deserves
some powder.
It deserves some help along the way.
Absolutely.
It's unnatural for us.
I was up at 4:30 this morning.
Yeah, you're a lunatic. Like, your love of Monaghan knows no bounds. The guy, he drives from Monaghan on Monday morning.
Sometimes
to make it
not every week. No, yesterday the minor
most people
final
go down the
was
night before, like, but he's like, just squeeze every last drop of Monaghan juice.
Just pour it into my soul, basically. The more Monaghan I can get into my body on it.
It's a risky game. Like, anything could happen with your car, anything could happen with you.
And it has happened with my car before, as you well know. That was a Sunday night.
Yeah, well, I just said Stephen could actually jump in there, so there's no fear.
It's
true. All dulcet tones could actually jump in. It's fine.
Yeah, replace the Monaghan once.
That's true. I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Oh, fire ahead.
How'd your bleep test go on Friday? You had a bleep test.
Pretty good compared to an average. So like 12.5.
That's good, I think.
Which is good, but it's good for the start of the season, I think.
So for context, Shane had the start of his pre-season training with his beloved football club, and he's team captain. So his attendance was crucial. It was imperative because Shane did have a social engagement booked for Friday afternoon, and he had to cancel as a result of his bleep test.
Yeah.
Now the bleep test is the thing that sends fear into every single person who's ever played sport.
Oh yeah.
12.5. Solid outing
for the start of a season.
Now it's not an Owen Cody 1-5 in Croke Park style effort, because as team captain, that's the kind of effort that you need to put in.
Yeah.
I know, you have to set the standards.
But Owen Cody's at the peak of his season. I'm just pre-season job here. This is like I'll get there. I'd like to think in 4 weeks if I did another bleep test I'd be
16.
much improved. Yeah, well
16.
We'll see.
Well, how are you at bleep tests?
Horrendous. Back of the pack. Did one with David Herity in 2017, and I was so bad that I knew that I was never going to see game time, and it was deserved. It was deserved. I'd say he went, oh sweet mother of divine.
It's the noise at the start of the bleep test, the few beeps that it does to warn you that it's about to start, and then it's like dee,
and then everyone's laughing and joking as they're jogging back and forth. It was like, oh, this is easy.
But there's some people who start jogging pretty fast at the start, and you're like,
it's stupid.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
It's stupid.
But it's done on a basketball court, so it's not even game relevant.
We used to do it in PE in school. How sick is that?
Yeah, I know we did as well.
Did you do as well?
Yeah.
That's sick. Like
every so often, it's like, why are we doing this?
That's sadistic.
It was very sadistic. Emphasis in the wrong syllable. I love it.
Do I not remember Bernard Brogan doing one on the Late Late?
Did he? Did he actually?
I think Bernard Brogan actually did one on the Late Late.
Jesus,
that's an emergency.
I think live coverage.
It's 9:25 p.m. We have a cancelled. Do something. Look, we'll get into the hurling and camogie because Sarah, you are all over Croke Park all over the weekend. However, you sent me a text last night and I lolled. You don't loll much from a text. You don't actually say loll much in your early 30s. But when you actually loll. Yeah. You had some great company beside you at Croke Park yesterday.
So 2 random Americans parachuted in just as the ball was thrown in for Clare and Kilkenny, and they gave me life. They gave me life. There was 2 young lads from Kildare next to me, and the 3 of us had the best 75 minutes of hurling. It's hard to explain. The 2 American lads were so enamoured by the sport. One was going for the Cats and the other guy was going for Banner.
Go Banner.
Go Banner. No, the Banner.
Like
it was
Banner.
Just Banner. They wanted to know what the mascots were in place and if these were the Clare Eagles. And I said, no, we have no mascots in place. Big on penalties. They were like, how do you get a penalty?
They must have watched Manning game there the week. They must have.
And defensive. That was a really good defensive display. It was.
Wow, this Kilkenny offense today, man.
Offense, defense.
Cody.
Yeah.
Cody.
Bro, Cody.
Yeah.
And there was a collision at one point. What was the description?
Richie. So actually, Diarmuid Ryan on Richie Reid.
Oh yeah.
The two lads nearly came out over the seat, and they were like, "God, he really trucked him." And I was like,
"Let's start freaking trucked him."
Yeah, trucked
language.
him. Yeah, they were brilliant. So they're actually going to watch the final from the US in 2 weeks' time. I gave them the GAGO link. I spelled it out for them. I was like, GAGO. Okay, you'll have full access, $15. And they were like, $50. I was like, yeah, $50 for the ticket, lads. They wanted to know why we weren't professional.
Oh yeah,
they wanted us to bring it stateside.
Yeah,
should have got them on the show there.
They were
a lot of questions to be answered there. I'd imagine over 75 minutes.
And the worst part is they got absolutely cleaned. So they obviously had a bet on. They both picked a team.
Yes.
They were against each other. They both had bought the hat scarves and headbands out the front, and they reckoned they got cleaned out by the lad at the top of the road.
I would say they definitely did. He saw them coming a mile away.
For their strings, yeah.
A mile away.
Yeah.
What part of America were they from? Do you know?
Good question.
Shout out to them regardless.
I hope they're listening.
Listening this morning, yeah.
By the way, if you ever get the time, the two of you, right?
Yeah.
And everyone out there listening, the Wham documentary on Netflix is sensational.
It popped up on me the other day. I'm on Black Mirror at the minute.
It is. You can drop Black Mirror. This only costs you an hour and a half of your time, and you'll be happy you spent it.
What's so good about it? Sell it to me.
George Michael's a genius, like an actual a writing genius, and the two of them, and they just took on the world, and they were just school buddies. So George Michael joined the school at age 11, 12.
Who's the other one in Wham?
Andrew Ridgeley, I think, is it? Oh my God, his name escapes me now. Just as I literally watched the documentary, because he's gone missing.
Must have been a good documentary if you can't remember his name.
Well, it doesn't matter though. It's not about the people. It's Andrew Ridgeley. I was right.
Ridgeley.
I should have backed myself there. He was in school and he was like the cool kid, popular kid. George Michael came in and he was like real awkward when he was a young fella. He wasn't like what he became. And then the teacher was like, "This is George Michael, his real name. Who's going to look after him?" Andrew just said, "I'll look after him." And they ended up creating Wham together.
I mean, that's not
unbelievable. So basically, I didn't realise this. They were just kind of taking the Michael the whole time with Wham, but George was just an incredible songwriter.
Yeah.
So Andrew was the more popular one and the kind of more charismatic one at the start. Then George writing all the songs, and then he just ended up being this incredible songwriter to the point where Ridgie took a back step, and Careless Whisper was released as a single by George Michael, not Wham, even though he was still in Wham. But Andrew Ridgeley, you'd almost be welling up with pride. They were such good friends. Andrew Ridgeley was like, "You should go for it. You should do your solo career." And he ran off into the sunset. Never really to be seen again.
You went so corked there.
Never really to be seen.
Ran off into the sunset?
Never
seen again?
Never really to be seen again. Never really to be seen again.
Whoa.
Multi-millionaire, surfing in Cornwall.
Right.
What a man, and doesn't really do media. If we get him on the show too, you have to be there, it'd be amazing. Doesn't really do much. And you just
is he an interest in sport?
I will
had to be there, might be fair enough.
No, it'd be good, I'd say. Sure,
tennis. He likes tennis, doesn't he?
Who, Andrew Ridgeley?
No, I thought you were talking about George Michael. Sorry,
sure, he's dead.
Yeah, I know, but he liked tennis. Sorry, past tense.
Oh yeah.
As in, he used to be seen in the Royal Box, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe I made that up.
Where did you get the time?
It was only an hour and a half Saturday night.
I wouldn't even have that time. Oh no, I did watch a couple of episodes of Black Mirror, which were similar length.
Exactly, yeah, same thing. But anyway, I have my 2023 playlist on Spotify, and I update songs as I go, and I have 3 Wham songs in a row now
because of the documentary.
It's unbelievable. You gotta watch it. Honestly, you gotta. Stephen Doyle put it on to me, and I went on to Stephen Doyle afterwards. I was like, thank you.
Right. Maybe that is actually the detox that I need. As in 13 hours in Croke Park over 2 days, and all you can see is the stewards, directing you in and out. Yeah. So maybe that's actually what I need to do today.
I got burnt yesterday. You'll see look at the state of this farmer's town. You mightn't be able to see that too well on camera, but I went to leave the house yesterday for the athletic grounds in Armagh for the All-Ireland Minor Football Final. Monaghan losing to Derry, unfortunately for Monaghan, by 7 points. Derry, brilliant by the way, dominating possession. The biggest downpour I have seen in years. The heaviest rain, thunderstorms, thunder and lightning, leaving the house literally soaked on the run to the car, and it's not a long run to the car. And then literally then just the sun came out, it was roasting hot, got burnt in my face and my arm. I was like, this is like ridiculous. Just couldn't predict what weather it was going to be yesterday around Armagh, Monaghan area, but Monaghan lost regardless.
I don't know, did they miss a trick yesterday, because I don't remember them announcing in Croke Park even the winner of that game. Like, these games are supposed to be connected. This is a community.
Yeah.
And I was there from 1 o'clock yesterday till
there was no.
Stewart
I only saw it on your man's social media, to be honest.
And to be fair, there was a lot of talk in the build-up that these minor lads should have been allowed the opportunity to play in Croke Park in the final. But when I was there yesterday, like, the place was packed. It was an unbelievable atmosphere. So I kind of understood the rationale.
Even think it's not even the issue with where it was played. It's the fact that it wasn't connected in. So even if at half time they had flashed up with the report from the game, there's big screens in Croke Park, it would have just connected the 50,000 people that were there to the game.
Because usually the minor football and hurling finals are fairly well publicised, but obviously it's kind of changed. I don't know, is the hurling final down for Croke Park? I'm not sure. I'll figure that out. On the way between...
Hurling final.
Oh, the minor hurling final.
That's done and dusted.
It's done and dusted. Well, there you go. Was it in Croke Park?
No.
See, like, I get the rationale behind the provincial grounds from a fan's perspective, but it would be nice for those players to have the experience of Croke Park maybe once off. I never got to play in Croke Park myself, so maybe it's just my living my dreams vicariously through these young players. On the way between now and 10 o'clock, the performance rankings in just a second. Seamus Hickey will join us from 8 o'clock to give us the Limerick perspective. Limerick obviously in a fourth final in a row. 8:25 a.m. Aidan Taggy Fogarty, the former Kilkenny. I did call him Tigerty about 14 times the last time he was on, so that's the laughs in the background. Taggy will give us the Kilkenny backdrop after yesterday's performance. Vinny Perth from around 8:50 give us the League of Ireland, of course heading into a European break now for the League of Ireland. Alan Quinlan then from 9:10 the Irish Under-20s into the World Championship final, where they will play France, and then a classic crappy quiz on the way for you from 9:30. But it is time at 7:41 a.m. on this Monday morning's OTB AM for the performance rankings.
You know, that wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's performance rankings.
I'm scratching my head. The performances was just lacked that intensity.
Okay, Sarah, 13 hours in Croke Park, and we're going to start in the red with a couple of losing performances from the weekend.
Sure. Okay. I'm starting with Clare.
Okay.
Kilkenny come out winners 125 to 122. But for me, Clare, Brian Lohan potentially could be the one in the red as opposed to Clare. That first half, that decision to play Shane Amori as a sweeper, trying to explain that to American lads midst game.
Trying to explain it to the country was hard enough.
Yeah.
And before Christmas, lads, I was in Croke Park with you guys for Ballyhale Shamrocks, Ballygunner and Dunloy matches, right? And Richie Reid had the run of Croke Park that day, and he was pinning passes around Croke Park, and I was so adamant with Aisling O'Reilly that I couldn't figure out why they'd give Richie Reid the run of Croke Park. And Brian Lohan did the same yesterday, and it allowed Kilkenny to have such good restarts and allowed them to pick out pockets of space. And it continued for 35 minutes. So it clearly wasn't working. And Brian Lohan didn't make the change.
Yeah, took too long to do something about it, didn't they?
Yeah, but see, Morey was just so adrift. He wasn't getting across. And I know I'm being very technical here now, but my point is, it was glaringly obvious for 35 minutes that this sweeper system that wasn't necessary shouldn't have been in force, and Clare played into Kilkenny.
Clare changed how they've been playing the championship, but presumably because they were spooked from what happened last year. Like, they were absolutely hammered at half time last. There was only 5 points in it this time. Like, was the choice to play Morey in the sweeper system, was that the losing of the match? Because there was only 5 points in it at half time, and then Clare ended up going 2 points ahead midway through the second half.
This wasn't the team that played last year. This was a different team that Clare had. This is my frustration with it. Dave McInerney looked to be flying fit. John Conlon was available. You had David Fitzgerald, Cathal Malone, you had Ryan Taylor, you had Mark Rogers. This was a different Clare team. They shouldn't have been looking backwards. They shouldn't have been looking at what happened last year. Clare had come on leaps and bounds from that. Every commentator to this point this season had said this is a different Clare team. So to be spooked by what happened against Kilkenny last year was naivety beyond the extreme, and Brian Lohan is in the red, not Clare.
But so when they went man for man in the second half, much improved, but Kilkenny still won the game. So why is that, do you think?
The goalkeepers yesterday were incredible.
Both of them, brilliant.
But Ivor Quilligan made a massive error, and it was punished immediately by TJ Reid and finished off expertly by Eoin Cody. So as much as you can say that Kilkenny were ice in the veins, ultimately Clare made too many mistakes to win an All-Ireland semi-final.
Yeah, and like Eoin Cody, you mentioned, like even in that first half, that battle with Rory Hayes, the 3 points from play in the first half, you're thinking this guy is on form today, and just goal, like everything about his performance yesterday, including the second half. And there was a moment in the second half yesterday, I think it was when Clare went 2 up, where every little foul, everything was getting the fist pump, it was getting the crowd on side, and you're thinking, right, momentum here massively with Clare.
But then the goal happens.
Exactly.
So my issue, I suppose, is that in that first half, Clare were getting blocked down. Kilkenny were working so hard. Actually, the Conor Fogarty save happened right in front of me. Right in front of me. Everything that... Don't get me wrong. Kilkenny absolutely fully deserved the win. But Clare made too many mistakes. And when I say too many, they probably made too many mistakes to deserve to win the game.
You see, I think Galway are fully deserved to be in the red, and we'll get to them, but I think even Lohan, like, he corrected the mistake at half time. Like, I don't know if he should be in red, because they were absolutely annihilated in the semi-final last year. No. Wasn't Tony Kelly didn't score last year, and he was like, we need to do something.
Tony Kelly scored a point today. At one stage in the first half, Mikey Butler took off and Tony Kelly was marking Mikey Butler. Now stop it, lads. Like, that's...
And nearly scored an unbelievable point. He obviously pulled it wide.
But Brian Cannon was deep for Galway on Saturday, and he performed very well. Like, there was ways around it. I thought Clare were good. I thought they played very well yesterday. But the most extraordinary save you're ever likely to see at Croke Park, they could have won that game.
Well, it's the volley first.
But the second half.
With that, like, what I'm saying in the first half was the positioning that we had behind the goal. Richie Reid was so obviously free. There was too many bodies inside there. This was the issue. Shane O'Morey's up the other end. There was way more space in the Kilkenny inside line, so it wasn't even working. Clare weren't even clogging up the space on the other side. But from the vantage point of Shane O'Donnell, he had so little space because Richie Reid was playing that position so well. So I think Brian Lohan didn't get it right, and we'll come to Limerick later and what they did well. Limerick were in trouble after 25 minutes. Nicky Quaid pulls a fast one, and Kinnerk gets the message in. Limerick go from 6 points down to 1 point down before half time. So Clare could have made a switch 20 minutes in.
Well, once they went
22 minutes in.
The first 3 minutes of the second half, didn't they score 3 points?
First quarter, they outscored Kilkenny. I was at 1-8 to 3 points in the first 18 minutes of the second half.
They were relentless in that third quarter. So why couldn't that have happened 20 minutes in? It was as plain as the nose on my face.
Can I ask you, and I know you're both Cork people, the referee yesterday was from Cork, Colm Lyons, and there was a moment in the second half where Duggan makes the catch, launches the ball in, they score the goal, it's pulled back for the advantage of the free. That wasn't the only qualm or issue that Clare fans might have had yesterday. Like, was the referee's performance subpar?
he blew up too early, but a bit like Ireland's disallowed goal against France last Thursday night. Like, the French goalkeeper stopped, so the finish was easier, and I think the Kilkenny players stopped a bit too because the whistle was blown. So I don't think it would have played out like that. I think Tommy Walsh said it to Joe yesterday on with ourselves, saying, like, if the ref didn't blow for that free and the ball went in as a 50-50 challenge, then the Clare fans would have also gone mad if Kilkenny had won it. So I think it's easy to say in hindsight. And also there was a long way to go after that.
But that's not the issue. I think yesterday my frustration with Lions was constantly putting up the hand and then putting down the hand and putting up the hand and putting down the hand. The game wasn't allowed to flow. At one stage in the first half, Mikey Butler and Tony Kelly share like a moment, we'll say, one's on top, the other's on top, one's on top, and then the free is given out. Mikey Butler gets an opportunity. Tony Kelly should have been allowed to win the ball and play the ball. Instead, Mikey Butler gets a free out. That was a massive momentum change, because the frustration on Tony Kelly's face at that moment, it was clearly the wrong decision. There was a charge on John Conlon. He's on the ground, wasn't it? Yeah, he's flat on the ground, and the decision wasn't to change the free. It was for TJ Reid to pop over a handy free, but clearly John Conlon had been injured. There was so many instances in the game where Colm Lyons didn't seem to be in control of the game. Did you think Kilkenny got too many soft frees, or were most of them legitimate? Because TJ Reid doesn't need help. Like, that was one pity in the game, actually, that TJ Reid had so many frees that it was you'd love to see the frees taken away and these two sides go head to head. My issue was that I felt Colm was misjudging kind of the stuff that was going on in the background between Clare and Kilkenny. Kilkenny are well able to leather it into teams and do it covertly, we'll say. And he was just very technical on what Clare were doing to Kilkenny, but he wasn't astute enough to see that Kilkenny were masters of the dark arts yesterday off camera.
Yeah. I'm just mindful before we move on that we have to highlight the two most amazing moments you're ever likely to see, like the Peter Tuggan, as you call it, the volley shot at the end, and Owen Murphy's save. Like, I was watching on TV and I just made this like involuntary noise, like how do you do that? I just thought I hit the bar directly. And then Shane O'Donnell's goal.
Yeah, I mean, 63 minutes?
Yeah.
He loves that Hill 16 end, doesn't he? And even his high fielding in the first half, but that goal, like...
the save was so good afterwards that the goal is actually the second biggest highlight.
For me, like, everyone in the stadium was enthralled for the last 10 minutes. I know I said I was in Croke Park for 13 hours yesterday, but if it had gone to extra time,
you wouldn't have minded.
I would have held on to my seat. I'd have taken my seat home. And when the volley happens, right, you're like, okay, that is inch perfect. There is nobody stopping that. That is, and then there's this the whole stadium goes silent. Really weird, deathly silent. It's like, where's the ball? Eerily silent. And then Owen Murphy, cat-like, flicks the ball up over the bar, and we have a moment for the ages.
It was like I remember being at the Cork Limerick semi in 2018. Was
with
it
Nicky Quaid
made that save?
Why are you bringing that up today?
Sorry to bring that up, guys. And surrounded by two Cork people.
Why are you bringing that up today? Firstly, I just have to say Peter Duggan's volley.
Yeah, amazing piece of skill.
Stunning piece of skill, and I thought he was excellent all through the game. Some massive catches yesterday, dogged work rate, finding spaces when there wasn't genuinely space to be got, but to be undone by Owen Murphy and that Kilkenny performance.
Ridiculous.
We'll talk about Kilkenny later, because needless to say, they're in the green.
They are. Before we move on from the red, what do we say about Galway? Like... same old. Like the game kind of went as expected, but although in the first half Galway, I guess, would be pretty pleased with how things were playing out, but Limerick's intensity was just on another level. So
in that first 25 minutes, and Will O'Donoghue's sitting back centre back, and he's clearly struggling. The communication piece isn't working. Barry Nash is having a figari behind him. Barry Nash doesn't know where to stand. And all I can think of in that moment is, why hasn't the camera panned to Declan Hannon? Because surely he is going absolutely bananas, saying, lads, I've been with you for so long now, surely one of you noticed what I do in a game. Because it was so obviously not what was required from that position. Credit to Will O'Donoghue.
Second half difference.
25 minutes in, massive change. They went, I suppose, the work rate did increase massively. There was a number of things that changed after that, I suppose, first horrendous 25 minutes. But from Galway's point of view, they looked like they'd ran out of petrol, lads, midway through the second half. Say around the 50-minute mark. And I thought Cian Lynch actually was impeccable for Limerick, and it took him a while to get into the game, but in that third quarter, I sound very American, in that third quarter he was exceptional. The amount of ball that he picked up. When you mention Brian Lohan in the red, like, is there an argument? Henry Shefflin, so Cork had the two men inside, and then I think Limerick maybe just scored two points in a row. I felt there was nothing really to worry about. It was just a couple of quick Limerick points in a row, and then he changes to the one up on the inside line, and then the game just changed. I'm not sure Shefflin got his in-game management right. 2 weeks ago I spoke about him having his best day in the Galway jersey, or Galway management seat, against Tipperary, and I felt like the template that he played against Tipperary, he seemed to try to apply to Limerick, which was probably the naive thing to do, because even Glennon for Galway playing for 40-45 minutes and then bringing in Tom Monaghan, there was just it was very Groundhog Day, same and predictable, massively predictable. And then Jason Flynn's not available, he's injured, so there wasn't that Walter Walsh style presence coming in late on to give Limerick any kind of pressure. And then the third part was obviously the bench. Shefflin had 9 months to deliver a bench for Galway, and we had spoken in the Leinster Championship about how they were kind of at their ease finding these players to come through, to come on. 2 options came on yesterday for Galway in scoreable options, Conor Cooney and Liam Collins. Neither of them was effective. So maybe Henry and Brian deserve to be in the red.
Yeah, I think so.
The post-match there, trying to give Shefflin a lot of credit actually to his face, and he was actually turning down the credit, saying no, it doesn't feel like progress, it feels really disappointing. And like another highlight from the week, Colin Mannion's goal was like the passing, Cooney's pass inside to Mannion, and the goal from the tight angle.
He should never have tried that shot, you know.
I was thinking this is a low percentage effort.
Yeah,
like
the low
take your
percentage
point.
shot.
What a goal.
It was a stunning goal.
Great first 25, as you say.
Yeah, great first 25 minutes. But I actually, and interestingly, tough question put to Joe Canning on the panel after the game. He was asked, does he back Henry Shefflin to stay on next year? And Joe said Henry Shefflin is the greatest player of all time. Of course we want him in charge. I think that's a big statement from somebody of Joe Canning's calibre in Galway. It probably takes the pressure off a little bit, in that Henry knows that he has that kind of backing. It would have been a different scenario if Joe had said maybe he's not the manager for us.
I think it'd be a bit premature to say that he needs to go. Like, you're playing against a generational team here.
Oh yeah,
it's one of the best sides ever.
Yeah.
So interestingly, the Galway team that lost the minor All-Ireland this year was heavily fancied from under 12, my sources say, right? Big shock that Clare undid them, right? But if that team has been together for the bones of 6-7 years and there's real quality there, those are the players that need to come through to under 20s, and those are the players that you'd be hoping to see in the next 2 years. And no better person than Henry Shefflin to work with a group that is unequivocally talented.
Yeah.
And that's, I suppose, what the bonus is. And we'll talk about the under 20 rugby team later and what's coming through. But in the same breath, if Henry hangs on and this group of players delivers in the way that people say they can, maybe it's not all doom and gloom for Galway this morning, despite being in the red.
Despite being in the red this morning. Also in the red, we have Kilkenny Camogie, 1 point defeat to Cork.
I'm wearing my Cork top this morning.
Notice that?
Yeah.
You're wearing maroon, Colin, but yeah, close enough.
Look, yesterday in Croke Park, I suppose the manner of the victory probably summed up Kilkenny's season. I've been watching them since February. I was in Parnell Park at the start of the year when they played Dublin in the league. They weren't motoring that day. They weren't motoring against Wexford in the first round of the championship this year. Wexford came back from 10 points down to draw level. They only managed to draw against Tipperary last week. Their season never kicked into gear. And yesterday, when they needed a kick against Cork, they didn't get it. Yeah. And the refereeing yesterday for Cork was an issue as well. Yeah. So Cork had 2 penalties denied yesterday. Referee got out of dodge yesterday, because if Kilkenny had won that game, there would have been massive issue with the fact that Cork were denied 2 penalties, especially so late on. I would say from Kilkenny's point of view, they'll look back at the season overall, not just at that game yesterday, and say we weren't at our pitch and we deserve to be in the red.
There's obviously a heavy focus put on the protests at the moment in the Camogie and the ladies football especially, and certainly in this game it was highlighted, I think it's fair to say, Sarah.
Bit of confusion at the start of the game. So the 2 teams were given the option to come out with the Unite for Equality t-shirts on, puck around before the game with them on so that they'd be visible for the TV, and then they were given the option of either staying on the pitch and taking off the t-shirts on the pitch, or going back into the dressing room to take off the t-shirts. Cork chose to go into the dressing room. Kilkenny chose to stay on the field and have their chat at pitch side. But what it looked like, because an explanation wasn't forthcoming beforehand, it looked like they weren't united for equality. And I suppose there was a lot of conversation on Twitter, and there was a lot of conversation on the airwaves and on the commentary that, was this a break from the protests? And I suppose the clarification was given by the GPA after, no, this wasn't a break from the protests. Both sides were given the opportunity to decide at what point they would go into the pitch or what point they would stay, on the pitch. So Kilkenny, unfortunately, I suppose, are unlucky in that they've been tarred by a communication error on the part of the GPA, because I suppose we're unsure as to whether or how this protest is going to escalate. And on Saturday, we thought there was going to be a bigger protest. We thought the girls were going to turn up to Croke Park wearing shorts instead of skirts. I imagine explaining that one to the Americans. And they didn't. They had kept quite, I suppose, formulaic in what they've done in the last few weeks.
Yeah,
you're asking me about the protests and whether they're effective?
Not if everyone's not united.
But I suppose they are united. It's just they were given 2 options and one went.
Yeah. Less options the better.
Yeah, but I suppose my point on Saturday, and I was in the studio on Saturday with Joanne Cantwell, and Joanne had asked me, what are you looking for? And I explained what the minimum standards that the teams were looking for, and then she looked down at the stadium and she said, the place is empty. This is the first time Antrim are in an All-Ireland quarter-final in 40 years. Why aren't women supporting women?
Yeah.
And she's right. My issue is that the spectacle isn't as good as the hurling spectacle right now, and I suppose women are choosing to go to the hurling games that are on at the same time as the camogie matches, and which
is another issue altogether, the timing of the games.
But if there was 10,000 women in Croke Park yesterday watching the men's hurling, and we've all paid 50 quid a pop, so that's €500,000. I think if you polled every woman who went out of Croke Park yesterday and said, you had a great day in Croke Park today, you've given 50 quid, do you mind if the GA siphons off a percentage of that to the improvement of women's sport? I think you'd be hard pressed to find a woman in Croke Park yesterday who wouldn't say, Jesus, of course, give the women a few bob.
Exactly.
I can't play hurling, so I can't benefit from the GA, but I've given my 50 quid yesterday. And if we integrate, is that not what's going to happen anyway? So if 2024 is the year to do it and the money's there, then maybe we need a bit of forward thinking from the GA.
Fully agree. It was a strange one, certainly at the weekend with that game, and a 1-point defeat, as we said, for Kilkenny against Cork. Onto the amber, we have the tennis.
Right. Now, a little snippet there, Liam Brodie talking about his mum not being able to watch the games, and I'm wondering, parents put so much time into these games.
I know.
And then they can't even watch the games for the nerves.
Yeah.
But he coolly says, Mom, don't worry about it, €80,000 this week, or £80,000.
Yeah, it's class.
Yeah, in the back
huge.
pocket.
Huge for players like that, like who are low ranked. That's massive money. Like that helps them stay on the tour for another while.
Can you explain to us why Wimbledon is in the amber as opposed to green or red?
Yeah, amber. Well, the negative reason is it's a lack of star quality this year. So you have like no Rafael Nadal's injured. Obviously, Roger Federer and Serena Williams have retired in the last year. Andy Murray got knocked out Friday night against Stefanos Tsitsipas. Naomi Osaka's on maternity leave, and Emma Raducanu's injured as well. So all the biggest names. Nick Kyrgios pulled out the night before the tournament. So literally the biggest stars in the world, with the exception of Novak Djokovic, aren't playing. Having said that, you've had some great matches in the last week. Coco Gauff against Sophia Kenin, 2 Tsitsipas matches in a row against Dominic Thiem and then Murray. And then yesterday was unbelievable on the women's side. And Wimbledon, Iga Swiatek, world number 1, saved 2 match points against Belinda Bencic, who won the Olympics. First time she's ever got to a quarter-final of Wimbledon, believe it or not, even though she's world number 1 and a 4-time Grand Slam winner. And then probably the highlight then was Alina Svitolina from Ukraine against Victoria Azarenka from Belarus last night in court 1. Svitolina won that in a final set tie-break. She said before the tournament started she won't shake the hands of anyone from Belarus or Russia. Nothing against the people, but it's because of the war. Azarenka after the match just gave her a thumbs up to save the awkwardness, and then Azarenka got booed off the court by the fans, who I think misunderstood the situation, and Azarenka was actually doing Svitolina a favour. Also, Svitolina gave birth to her first child only last October, so it's a phenomenal achievement to win that match against Azarenka, former Grand Slam champion. Svitolina's been to 2 Grand Slam semi-finals, but she said this was the highlight of her career because of everything that came with it. So look, it's a mixed bag, lack of star quality, so the casual fan might not be that interested, but the matches are actually very good.
I made the argument when we were texting yesterday for the Performance Dragons that the Derry Miners should be in the greens. Just we'll put that forward. The Derry Miners were brilliant yesterday in that All-Ireland final in the athletic grounds. Limerick and Kilkenny, I know, are way over time, so maybe we'll get back to them very shortly, because we have Seamus Hickey standing by very shortly, and we have Taggy Fogarty as well to dive deeper into the Limerick and Kilkenny performances. But Sarah, the Irish under-20s in the rugby, brilliant.
31-12 victory, 4 tries. Richard Murphy must be absolutely delighted with the team. A little gutted that Brian Gleeson chose rugby over hurling. Another guy gone to the dark side. We lost Darren Sweetenham a number of years ago, and Tomas O'Leary. So yeah, I think for this group, and with what's coming with the World Cup in October, there's a real momentum with Irish rugby, and it's going to be incredibly exciting for that group of players to know that there's a a pathway for them to play world-class rugby, and they're now delivering on a world-class stage before that point.
Yeah, 100%. And it's amazing. I was actually watching the French and English semi-final. England went ahead very early on in the game, and then France came back and stormed back. So it's going to be an Ireland-France final in that under-20s. Just the second time as well Ireland have been into the World Rugby Under-20 Championship final. That was an emphatic win against the host South Africa. So yeah, very patient and mature display from them, and deservedly in the green. That is your performance rankings for this Monday morning.
OTB AM's performance rankings.
Yeah, just gone 8:05 AM on this Monday morning's OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball with myself and Sarah O'Donovan this morning. Colin Buhick as well with us there. Braeburn Coffee, I should say as well, is your official coffee partner of OTB. Braeburn Coffee is coming to an Applegreen near you. New Braeburn locations are popping up every month, so visit applegreenstores.com/Braeburn to find your nearest Braeburn Coffee experience. Up next, we'll have Seamus Hickey talking Limerick. First though, Tommy Welch reflecting on Kilkenny's win.
You're mentioning all those unbelievable sports stars. TJ Reid, we'll have to put him in there in that lineup as well. What a performance today, and obviously he bet the record as well, the all-time top scorer as well in the game.
All-time top scorer, and an amazing achievement for him, and congratulations to him, because like at his age, 35 or 36, to be still doing in All-Ireland semi-finals, albeit he's not scoring 5 or 6 from play anymore, he's still involved in crucial points of the game. And say around the 60th minute, there was a couple of minutes there, about 5 minutes in there, where he won a couple of great possessions, and I thought the goal looked so simple, where they took the ball off the clear defender, Billy Ryan, in fairness to him, took it off him, gave it to TJ. I don't think anybody else would have given such a perfect pass to Owen Cody, because he gave it that Owen just had to strike it to the back of the net. And that's TJ Reid all over, does the simple things really, really fast.
Yeah, and him and Owen Cody, they link up so well, and that's so evident. Even when Owen first came on the scene, you could see that, and it's really evident now a few years later.
It is, and it's probably the scary thing for every other club in Kilkenny, that Ballyhale, like in all the success and everything they've won, their main players for Kilkenny are nearly still the Ballyhale lads. You have TJ, you have Owen Cody, who link up, they're like, I suppose York and Cole will say years ago, they're just telepathic understanding. And out the field, Adrian Mullen was super, come back from that thumb injury 7 weeks ago. Richie Reid was brilliant. So like Ballyhale, they're still producing them and still hurling out of their skin on the biggest days of all.
OTB AM. It's Galway versus Kilkenny.
But not as you know it.
It's the fastest I've ever seen you run in your life, bro.
The Hurling Pod Live is off to the Port Gosh Energy Theatre in Dublin this July, and you're invited.
I'll be joined by my co-host James Skell and Paul Murphy on the night.
Start the leveler, he'd say, and the tractor is coming after us.
As we debate the highs and lows of the 2023 season and preview the All-Ireland Hurling Final. Plus, we'll be announcing some more hurling legends to take the stage with us.
It was a ruck, I got confused.
It's happening on July 20th at the Bord Gosh Energy Theatre. It's an exclusive off-air event. Tickets are limited, so don't delay. Go to offtheball.com/events for more.
Bord Gosh Energy, proud sponsors of the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship.
This is what inter-county hurling is it? That's why I should have stayed at rugby.
OTB AM.
The Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball.
Yeah, 8:08 AM on this Monday morning's OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show on Off the Ball, with myself, Shane Hannon, and Sarah O'Donovan on this Monday morning. Delighted to welcome to the show now to dive deeper into the weekend's hurling, the former Limerick star Seamus Hickey. Good morning, Seamus. How are things?
Good morning, folks. Good, thanks.
Thanks for playing. I'm sure you're very good after that weekend. Wonderful weekend's action. We'll get to you on Saturday's game, of course. 224 to 118 victory for Limerick over Galway. What was the turning point in this one for you, Seamus? I mean, I guess we were chatting this morning about the 25th minute. Nicky Quaid takes his little mini timeout. I'm not exactly sure what the injury was. I'm sure he was very badly hurt, but it just allowed John Kiley, I suppose, some instructions onto his half forward line at that point. So was that the moment at which the tide turned?
I don't think so. I think it was probably when Mike Casey stopped the ball on the line when Galway had a really good goal chance. They were 212 to 1-6 up, or they were 6 points up. They were 112 to 1-6 up at that stage. And Mike Casey's intervention for me was huge. Galway go 9 points ahead at that stage. You're talking about testing the resolve of the Limerick team that to that point hadn't looked anyway cohesive. So that to me was huge. Yet Nicky, I believe that was important to kind of calm things down. I think Galway really were on a, I suppose, a string of pushing the gap out to 6 at that stage was big. But for me, even with that, if Mike Casey didn't get his hurley there, was the last man on the line.
So Seamus, can I just ask, right? I was saying earlier that for the first 25 minutes, Will O'Donoghue looked very uncomfortable, right?
I agree.
And I said there was no shot, panned to Declan Hannon. Can you imagine Hannon sitting there going, lads, what have you done? I've played this role. Has anyone ever watched what I've done? He must have been jumping out of his seat with frustration.
Listen, so after 20 minutes in the first step, so I took my 3 kids up there, right? So I was sitting there, and my stomach was in knots after 20 minutes because I just felt that this team, the Limerick team, the way it wasn't settling. Cian Lynch was getting on ball, and it just wasn't sticking to his hand. It was falling out of it. We'd Garrod hitting wide. We'd wides come from 7 different players in the first half. And even Diarmuid Byrne's frees, who I thought Diarmuid was getting more consistent as a ball striker as time was going on. He had missed a free that I'd have expected him to score.
Yeah.
So it's after 20 minutes, it was not a comfortable place to be. I think Will O'Donoghue, as 6, I think he genuinely gave everything he had. But there was one instance in the first half. Keenan Fahey just took off from the centre on a puck out and found himself on his own under the Cusack stand, and he was picked out by Anna Murphy. And I just, that to me, I was like, well done, Keenan Fahey, for knowing that Will O'Donoghue doesn't play 6 for inter-county hurling. So for me, I thought Galway were superb in the first half. I really do. I thought Brian Concan was exceptional around the middle. I thought they got their tactics right when they withdrew the man. Limerick were trying to mark Conor Whelan with 2 people, and it didn't. And it ended up with neither of them marking him. So
because Barry Nash was the issue there. Yeah, did you? I felt Barry didn't know his role when Declan wasn't there either.
Yeah, so it's to me, the spare man should very obviously be Barry Nash. I think, but when I saw Mike Casey was trying to play Conor Whelan from the front, and then you had either Dan Morrissey trying to play him from behind, or Barry Nash. It was to me, it looked wrong, and it looked like a team when they have a spare man not knowing what to do with it, and that's unusual for Limerick. Like they've had it before. I just think they were probably very nervous, and rightly so, about Conor Whelan and his influence on the game too.
You spoke about Cian Lynch's influence, right? And I suppose in the first half, I'll agree with you. He was he wasn't himself, but in the second half, he seemed to sit much deeper. And he came right back into midfield, and he was very comfortable there, and he was picking up a lot of ball. That was a very good tactical, I suppose, move by Kinnerk to see that that's where he needed to go to support Will.
It's funny that Darragh Donovan shone for me in midfield yesterday because Will O'Donoghue wasn't there, and I think if you want to know what Will O'Donoghue brings to your midfield, you probably saw the effect of that switch of Cian, who's probably a bit more attacking, probably sat on the opposition's 65 a bit more. I think I agree with you. In the second half, he sat far more, I suppose, towards the Limerick goal, probably on their own 65 and a bit further. And he revelled in the physical exchanges in the second half. Really, really loved it. And so Cian, he's a class midfielder. He's probably an all-star midfielder if he wants to be. But that Will O'Donoghue, Darragh Donovan pairing has been so good for so long that changing anything means that you have to adjust, and there's a settling period for everything. And I believe that they'd settled in the first half. I knew that they would, because this isn't 2019. 2019 was a very, very different team, and a more inexperienced team in the semi-final against Kilkenny, where they never settled into the game, and they were chasing it right up until that deflected ball.
You're talking about settling into the game there, right? And I suppose the 2 weeks lead-in, we knew Declan Hannon wasn't going to be playing. A very astute move by John Kiley to put him out front and centre 2 weeks ago to say, look, he's not on the table. This isn't going to be a Conor Cleary situation where he's going to be there till the last minute. Is he or isn't he? So I'm surprised they took that long to settle, because this change was 2 weeks in the making.
So this is where the kind of the narrative around the infamous training games, the best game in the country is Limerick's A versus Limerick's B, and 10 years ago it was Kilkenny's A versus Kilkenny's B. You know what I mean? So this is where you can do your very best to replicate championship conditions, but Did they replicate Brian Concannon in the middle of the field, loose for puckouts? Did they replicate the space inside? And can you replicate a Conor Whelan inside in the full forward line? I don't think you can. So in all the things you can recreate in preparation, and you do have 2 weeks of getting an individual playing centre back, but you can't perfectly recreate or create the conditions that you're going to be playing against, and especially the team. So, for me, the first half, yes, Limerick didn't settle into the game, but Galway were really, really good and hitting the mark, really accurate, no wasted chances in the first half. And I was nervous as a Limerick person, so it was bizarre for me to see the second half then go from an intense competitive game in the first 10 minutes of the second half, where it was really physical. We had 7 line balls in a row because it was like both teams trying to find touch. At some stage, they thought they were playing the Under-20 World Cup, I'd say. But it was bizarre for me then to see that Galway fell away, because they were posing such a threat and a genuine challenge that for me it was very odd in the second half when they really did just fall away.
Did something change, Seamus, with Limerick's approach to Eamon Murphy's puckouts? Because they were obviously working early doors, but then in the second half, I don't know, was it just intensity? But I'd say from Eamon Murphy's perspective, he was like looking out onto that pitch thinking, where are my teammates? Because it just looked like there were maybe 20 Limerick players on the pitch.
It was, so for me, a lot of it was the shape that was so Limerick's midfield sitting deeper. Limerick's half forward line, I would say, didn't give the halfbacks as much latitude or space. So Mannion was pushed up on. I think the channels then that Eamon Murphy was trying to hit. So he was intercepted by Tom Morrissey, and Tom Morrissey had 2 wides in the space of 2.5 minutes, which was bizarre. So, but just the channels between halfback, centre back, and the midfield channels were really, really well closed down in the second half. And in the first half, with the spare man out there, Limerick were at 6s and 7s. I thought they didn't know what space to close down, who to push up on man to man, who to actually leave in space, and for me it wasn't great in the first 20-25 minutes. But Eamon Murphy didn't really look like he had a great option in the second half. It looked like every option was bad. When he went long in the second half, he was destroyed as well. So it's hard to know. It's hard to know what, from a Galway perspective, changed so dramatically. I do know that Limerick upped the ante in terms of Kyle Hayes was played superb in the second half, and even Jeremy Burns as well. So for me, Limerick definitely upped the ante, but I thought there was still enough for Galway to work with.
You're talking about Tom Morrissey there, Seamus, and he was taken off right at, I suppose, a 55 minute mark, and Limerick introduced, I think it's Cathal O'Neill was introduced for him.
It was, yeah.
Another manager I don't think would have taken Tom off.
I was very surprised, genuinely surprised that Tom, because of the impact he's had this year. He has been, let's say, outside of Gillane, it's been Gillane and Tom Morrissey who've been our most consistent hurlers this year. So, I'm always in the mind of trust your most trustworthy hurlers. So it was surprising for me, but it's funny, as soon as Cathal O'Neill came in, he made an impact. He was really, really hungry to get at it. He really carried the ball on, carried it through contact, and I'm not able to hit the ball on the run from 65-70 metres out over the bar the way he did from the right hand side.
That stunning score in the second half.
It was unbelievable. It really did. David Reedy had just scored before him from a similar spot, but David was standing up. So it was, for me, it was a substitution that worked. I was surprised by it at the time because, again, Tom means a lot to that team, and he's a great leader. But it's a really, really good sign that Cathal O'Neill is making strides in his.
I think we've seen that already this season with John Kiley not afraid to make the changes. So in the game against Clare, crucial moments. It was Reedy, it was Adam English, it was Cathal O'Neill in that last spell that were integral for Limerick to get them over the line against Clare. So maybe it's no surprise that he's bringing off the older guys, at this stage, because he did it in the Munster final in a clutch moment.
Yeah, and it's, in fairness, you don't give these guys time unless you're actually going to trust them in the crunch, because you don't bring subs on in the first 10 minutes of the game, you bring subs on in the last 10 minutes of the game. So if you don't give them the experience, and they have been exposed, like you said, in the Clare game, they've had in the Cork game, you use subs off the bench as well. So like, you don't use them unless you trust that they're going to make an impact.
Can I ask about Shane O'Brien? So I was massively impressed with him in the league, and he was outside the 26 yesterday, and the chat was that he was left back to his club to play a club game a few weeks ago. Like, he was a real standout in the league. But I suppose we've seen with John Kiley that over the last number of years, you know, he has taken a formidable length of time to get players into the championship side. Carl O'Neill, case in point. Are you surprised Shane O'Brien has gone off the boil?
Not so much, because of the position that he's going for is incredibly competitive. So you had Micheál Hurling as well, had done really well in the league, and you know, he was really a man of the moment earlier on in the year. You know, we've had, you know, Colin Coughlin is still waiting to make a real impact in the championship since, and he has shown snippets of what I'd say, you know, real potential when he's been in there. But he's trying to break into probably one of the best half-back lines in the country, with or without Declan. So that's the kind of nature of the beast there.
So you're not putting much store on the league, you know, based on, I suppose, the performances those players had. Yeah.
Otherwise, TJ Reid wouldn't be starting for Kilkenny and Billy Drennan would. So, you know, that's the way I see it. I'm amazed that Billy Drennan hasn't featured more for Kilkenny. So that's the nature of a year, and you plan a year and you train for a year. You don't train for winning the league, even though some teams do, and that undoes them. So it's for me, Shane O'Brien is just one of, like Adam English. Now, I was surprised not to see him earlier yesterday, because I thought the game was tailor-made for a guy like him with his speed and the space that was opening up around the middle. So, you know, the options that are there are great, but the team they'll face in the final have just as many options off the bench.
I think we had a conversation on the show last week, Seamus. What is the best way to mark Aaron Gillane? And I don't think we're any closer to finding out the answer to that question, because if the Tom Morrissey floated ball inside in 5 minutes, and the second goal as well, per Pádraig Mannion with another inadvertent kind of attempted clearance that leads to a goal, but Gillane was just supreme.
It's quite frustrating for me, and I don't listen. Everybody's entitled to manage a team the way they want, but like I don't know why Gerard McInerney is in full back there. I don't know, and it's not a particularly anything on Gerard, because I think he's a superb centre back and has been and proven it. But Daithí Burke played really well yesterday, centre back, and I just think his influence would have been far better felt on the edge of the square. And Gillane he's such a difficult guy to mark, because he's got the physical tools. He's 6'2". He's exceptionally strong, and in the air he's as tricky as Tommy Walsh was when he was playing wing back for Kilkenny. Like, he's in the air. Gillane is an absolute nuisance, because you can't pin down his hands, and he's definitely trying to influence you as the ball is coming down, and he's got a great focus then when the ball arrives, then just to snatch it. So playing him from the front is a very dangerous thing to do. McInerney probably found that, and even in the first half, but the first ball of the game between Limerick and Clare, I'm trying to think, was it the Munster final or was it the group game? And I think it was a Munster group game. It was a Munster group game in Gaelic grounds. The first ball of the game was a long ball into Gillane. He caught it, fed it off to Flanagan, and Flanagan actually, he was saved well by Quinlan. But he does it on the regular. So it's a threat. His aerial threat is probably one of his strongest features, and he uses it to great effect.
There was a point made by Ryan O'Dwyer, I think it was on Off the Ball Across the Weekend, where he made the point that he felt the Galway players need to bulk up. And I know this always comes up when teams play Limerick, because Limerick clearly a very physical team, they're a big team. Does he have a point there? Do you subscribe to that as well, Seamus, that maybe there's maybe a lack of physicality in that Galway team?
I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with I don't think that. I think to misconstrue physicality with conditioning is I think they're different things. Because I suppose why I particularly say that is Clare have matched up particularly well with Limerick in the last 3 years, and they've got Tony Kelly isn't a colossus. You've got the likes of Ian Galvin, you've got the likes of David Reedy, you've got even around the middle of the field, they're players.
Cornerbacks for Clare wouldn't be particularly tall either.
Yeah. So particularly Rory Hayes and Adam Hogan's coming. He's a bit taller as a cornerback compared to what they've been using recently. So, but in general, physicality is basically the collisions. It's the how close you can get to a team. Could Galway be, I suppose, fitter? Yes, I would say possibly, because of what has happened in the late in games, unfortunately, from their perspective. But they did look out on their feet after 45 minutes yesterday. They genuinely looked like there was a breaking ball at one stage, and there was a couple. It was a very physical time in the game, but you really had players doubled over and trying to catch their breath. And in terms of body language, if I'm the Limerick team reading the Galway body language after that period of time, I'm thinking we have them. So there is something to be said there, but I don't know if it's bulking up. I don't know if that's the answer. I think it's conditioning isn't all about we'll say physical presence.
We've got a YouTube comment in here from 91 Devo who says, Limerick lads in key positions and the right places at the right times, winning majority of the breaks. Galway need decent sports psychologists to be able to handle big pressure games. Is there something in that when push comes to shove, and these little moments in an All-Ireland semi-final, Limerick I guess have been there, done that in the last few years? Yeah,
John Myler was former Galway manager, and and I think the comment was made in the lead up to this is an inconsistent Galway team from this year. You're talking about the performance varies from game to game, half to half. But John Myler was saying that's not today or yesterday. That has been happening in Galway. So I don't know what that's about. I think Micheál Donoghue had them playing consistently and had them playing very well. I do think there is a leadership element to it. In the actual players themselves, but also in the management team. So I could see Shefflin's frustration after the game. He really, really was frustrated with the lack of progress that the group has shown. This is a team that ran Limerick to a single score in All-Ireland semi-final 2 years ago, and then only a late burst of points made it. Was it 4 or 5 last year? So it must be frustrating because the performances they've given this year have flashed so much in. Particularly in the first half of the game yesterday, and even at times against Wexford, they look very, very impressive in their group against Leinster. Looked very impressive in the Leinster final and against Kilkenny and Nolan Park. So it's hard to know how they actually put it all together, because they've got great talent. There's no maybe.
Seamus, can I ask one final question? Are you relieved that it's not Clare in the final?
No.
Are you disappointed?
No. But it's like that. Am I relieved it's not Clare? To see Kilkenny and the way they're playing, can anybody tell me that Kilkenny aren't a better team this year than they were last year? I think they are. So the prospect of playing Kilkenny in the final isn't an appetizing one now. But the fact would Clare have been great in the final? The only reason that Clare wouldn't have been great in the final is that playing a team 3 years in the 1 year, or 3 times in the 1 year, is a tough prospect, because there's games within games there in terms of players, man marking, and and you're keeping tally of things that are going on for a long time.
And the sledging that happened in the previous 2 games.
But whatever about that and the sledging, but you're talking about even just from the you're over-analysing movements and actions that happened in a game when you shouldn't be thinking of them. So it's neither, really, because I was watching the game yesterday, and I thought it was an exceptional game, and I knew it was going to be a good game. I knew it was going to be tight. I thought Clare would win. I thought that they were coming with a bit of momentum behind them for the last, and I'm talking about from 3 years of momentum of finally trying to get over the line and get to the All-Ireland final. But Kilkenny are incredible. I mean, their consistency and their ability to weather the storms is exceptional, and they really were well worth the win yesterday.
Yeah, it's going to be a cracking final, Limerick and Kilkenny for sure. Seamus, thanks a million for hopping on this morning.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Brilliant stuff. Seamus Hickey there, former Limerick star. Can I ask you one Sarah, that struck me across the weekend? I was watching both days on telly at home with my dad. The hand pass. I know it's a abhorrent. It's a bone of contention that won't go away, but
it's abhorrent.
I don't understand it. As in, like, I can't tell when someone has hand passed the ball or thrown the ball in hurling. Like, how can a referee?
There was numerous occasions in both games where the ball was thrown.
Clearly.
And you can say that, it's a really fast movement of the hand. No, it's actually a throw, and you'd be up at the ball wall and you're practicing it, and it is a hard skill. So to be able to deliver a ball 15-20 yards quickly, inevitably they're throwing the ball, and the referees aren't pulling it up because there's so much else going on. But at one stage, this over the head thing, Galway, this over the head pass, it's horrendous.
I wonder, like, is it because, as you say, it's not pulled up? I wonder, do teams talk about this in training, where they're like, we're not going to get pulled up in this, you're going to save a split second, and these games are marginal games, so like it can come to, can you get the ball away half a split second faster than? But
I think it's the inconsistency of it. I think completely. Cork were pulled up against Clare, if you remember, in their game, and Cork were also pulled up against Limerick for throwing the ball a couple of times, and then it wasn't captured when Limerick played Galway. So I have a big issue with the inconsistency of the refereeing around it, and I think the players themselves need to tighten up the skill.
100%. It was Keane Lynch did it a couple of times. A number of players. I'm not.
And he'll tell you that there's a double movement there.
Yeah,
there isn't a double movement there. You have to see a separation of the ball from the hand.
I would love to see a slow mo of some of the ones that were clearly thrown, because I guarantee there's no two movements.
No, there isn't two movements there.
No, it's one of those awkward ones. Look, we're not going to sort it out this morning, but it's one of those that will obviously rear its head in the final again, no doubt. 8:31 a.m. on this Monday morning's OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show. I'll off the ball with myself and Sarah O'Donovan this morning. We're going to turn our attention to matters Kilkenny after yesterday's brilliant performance in that semi-final win over Clare. Delighted to say the former Kilkenny star Aidan Taggy Fogarty joins us on the line now. Morning, Taggy. How are things?
Morning, guys. Things are all good, thank God. Yeah, a good Monday morning to be waking up to.
I can imagine. How are you feeling after that game yesterday? It was a little bit nervy at some stages in the second half when Clare got back and took that 2-point lead, but really just the intensity, again, that word that we've used for Limerick, ratcheted up a little bit for Kilkenny then for that last quarter, I guess.
Yeah, it was a strange look to the old cliche, Shane. I thought it was a game of two halves, really. First half, I didn't think it was a great game, actually. I thought it was mistakes more so on the Clare side. I think the way they set up in the first half with the sweeper system didn't suit Clare at all. I was very surprised that they actually did it. They didn't do it against Limerick, so why would they do it against Kilkenny? I can understand maybe the reasoning that maybe last year we got ahead of them in the first half and they couldn't draw it back, but that for me, that's where Clare lost the game. And then, like, the second half, it just exploded, lads. Like, I don't know whether you were there in Croke Park, but when Clare went ahead, that first point from Ian Galvin, and I think the 50th for her first minute, the place just erupted. It had to have been 4-1 for Clare up there in terms of support. And I was saying, we are in trouble here. And the one thing I was kind of saying, I was on local radio, I was saying, if Clare get their tails up and get the crowd behind them, they're going to be very, very hard to stop. And I was worried at that stage of the game, and I suppose you talk about momentum swings and different shifts and big calls in the game. We got a goal and that stemmed their momentum, and that was a huge turning point for a Kilkenny point of view.
It was, wasn't it? And it was that I guess Shane Morley playing that defensive role left the Clare forwards having to work probably twice as hard, which only added to it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, it just totally stemmed the way even Clare played, I felt. And first of all, Shane O'Morey, I didn't feel, first of all, he played the role well. I think it's after 25-30 minutes, he was actually changed, and John Quinlan started playing the sweeper role in that first half. I don't know whether he's seen it, but he was taken off and he was put to be a man-marking job, and Quinlan was a spare man. And I could just see, like, the likes of maybe David McInerney looking up, Ryan Taylor kind of looked up, Peter Duggan was kind of stemmed looking up, and there's only one man inside, and Richie Reid was in front, Shane O'Donnell was usually kind of the man inside, and Hugh Lauder was man marking him, and then they were kind of trying to go lateral across the field, and it was just breaking down and was just totally stemming the flow of Clare. You seen it maybe in the second half where Clare just came right at Kilkenny, the intensity just totally lifted, and they were hitting that full forward line where Galvin was inside. Mark Rogers started to play really well. Shane O'Donnell obviously came into the game, got a superb goal, and the whole tide just turned. And you can see in the first half, it was just stemming their tide. They were going lateral, And Kilkenny were just so ravenous in the tackle, and they were so clinical in what they were doing. They were just breaking down. That last pass was just failing, and then Kilkenny were able to start the momentum, and we had an outball to Owen Cody. Owen Cody was just in phenomenal form. He was just unmarkable. He was getting good quality ball, but he's also winning back ball and getting points on the scoreboard, and that's just such a hard thing to do as a corner forward. You see Gillan maybe getting perfect ball and sticking it over the bar, but Owen was working, winning ball back and throwing it over the bar. And as I said, two totally different halves, and I just felt Clare left it on the field. Their cautious approach in the first half really cost them.
So in that first half, Taggy, I was sitting behind Owen Murphy, right? I was in the Davin stand. So Richie Reid's looseness was very obvious to everyone in the Davin stand, and the option that was, I suppose, given then in terms of the restarts. We talk about Kilkenny not playing the short game in previous years, and they were excellent at it yesterday, and I think that was probably instigated by the fact that Brian Lohan decided to play with the sweeper, because I don't think Kilkenny would have gone with a sweeper ever. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, Kilkenny don't go with a sweeper. We weren't going to go with a sweeper yesterday. That's for sure. It's not our style. It's not our mantra. Look, if needs be. Like, managers aren't stupid, and Derek is not stupid. Like, if you'd have to go with a sweeper, you go with a sweeper. But this Kilkenny team, I feel there's enough of guys there to stand up, enough of kind of characters on the team, enough of experience in the team, and enough of good players to go one-on-one. So I feel that Kilkenny were never going to go sweeper. And you mentioned that there, Kilkenny this year, their use of the ball is a lot better than it has been over the years. Now, it has been coming into the team, in fairness. No, Brian was bringing it into the team. But I just think in the big game scenarios, it's okay when you're 10-12 points up in a league match, or maybe first round championship, where it's not knockout. But we've seen it with Kilkenny maybe in our Ireland finals and semi-finals, where they kind of panic and they started to lump ball down on the full back line or on our full forward line, and we're losing out there. But yesterday, they were taking that 50-50 pass where they were going lateral, they were finding the man in the best position, and our delivery into the forward line was excellent. I thought it was really good. We were hitting Billy Ryan, we were hitting Owen Cody, and we were avoiding their sweep of Shadna Murray. And as I said, he probably didn't play the sweeper role well. He probably is not used to it, and he wasn't finding himself in the better position of cutting out them balls. But we were definitely more confident in that, playing the short role under the massive pressure of an Ireland semi-final, and we stuck to the plan. We didn't seem to panic. If anything, the panic came from Clare a small bit.
The role obviously Adrian Mullen played yesterday, there was a lot of doubt about whether he would start, but evidently he was critical to what Kilkenny did right yesterday, pink boots aside. But he was certainly, the instigator of all of that, I suppose, really clever play around the middle of the field, and chipped in with 2 points. You'd probably agree that he was kind of one of the mainstays yesterday in terms of getting Kilkenny over the line.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I don't know if you're wearing pink boots and buying Cody's time, to be honest. I think to be the old Gold Cup black and white ones. That's where are you going, them yokes? But,
very brave.
Very brave. Yeah. So that's what Derek has brought to it. A bit of players can do kind of a bit more freedom on the pitch. But Adrian Mullen is a huge cog in that Kilkenny team, and has been for the last couple of years. And him to play, and he was in midfield. He was on, David Fitzgerald was on him. He picked up Cotton Malone at times, but he got a score on the sideline, just a phenomenal score, putting over the bar on his left hand side. But his work rate, but even talking to the guys there, like, he'd be in training, he's going, like, when you're sprinting, you're going like 100%. He's going 95% all the time. So he's making runs even off the ball, and he's sprinting, and you mightn't even see it, and he mightn't even get the ball, but he's dragging the player with him. And then he's just getting in tackles. He's getting in big hits. I haven't seen the game back now, but I've seen one hit he gave John Quinlan, and he left him on the ground. It wasn't really caught, and the ball's going up the field. But these are massive hits, and he's just such a strong player, a real leader. And what he's kind of doing now, he's doing a job kind of like maybe Conor Fogarty kind of thing, that his work rate is huge, but he's chipping in with them 2 or 3 points. And if you leave him isolated in the middle of the field, he will put them over the bar. And lads have to kind of go out to him then and go, right, we have to pick up Adrian Mullen, and that leaves another gap up front for the opposition team. So a huge cog in the team. He was getting strapped. I was worried about him. He trained the week coming up to it, but the week coming up to it, you're only kind of pucking around. You're not doing a whole lot of physical activity. So he was getting strapped beforehand. I was worried about him, but no, look, a great game. And to miss out on so much, you could probably do the running, but in that match intensity, to come back after kind of 4 or 5 weeks and get into it straight away, he's a great player.
That Kilkenny strength and depth as well, Taggy, like it's probably one area in which they've improved and caught up to Limerick as well in some regard. Like you look at the bench yesterday, Buckley, Walter Walsh, Richie Hogan, Billy Drennan, Cian Kenny comes in as well. Like they have some serious options there.
Yeah, excellent options. Look, I think Derry coming in this year has marred this Kilkenny team very, very well. He's kind of rejuvenated the elder statesman. He could have came in and made a big statement and dropped one or two guys and said, I'm in, this is my team, my panel, but he didn't. He came in and he kind of, if anything, he's rejuvenated the older guys. If you
look at Conor Fogarty's stop yesterday, I think Owen Murphy thought he was going to save the ball and Fogarty's in before him. You know, that's the discipline and the drive that's there in that setup. So Fogarty probably be a player you're talking about there.
Fogarty, Walter Welsh coming on the last day, Richie Hogan even coming on yesterday. You know, obviously caught for a little bit of pace, but no, just that little bit of cuteness. To come on, Killian Buckley. You know, Killian Buckley haven't seen a whole lot of game time in the last 2 or 3 years. Never mind this year. You know, he's been in and out. He's been nipped up with injuries, but he came on at the bench, and that's another thing. He's getting married the day before that, so I don't know what's going to happen there.
Jesus, right.
So that was a bad mistake. You're talking about John Conlon's brother getting married, but I think he's down for the Saturday beforehand, so I don't know what's going to happen. It's crazy. But yeah, he has rejuvenated, and then he slipped in the likes of David Blanchfield. He slipped in the likes of Tom Phelan there into wing forward without any kind of fuss. You know, Billy Drennan that's up to come on. Timmy Clifford is on the panel, and you know, and I won't say the guys are nearly happy to come off the bench and do a job, but they seem to be coming off the bench and making an impact, and that means they're kind of happy in say coming on and making a difference. And it's about the panel, it's about the spirit, and I think the Leinster final is after helping that immensely. The manner in which they won it, the last time I seen Kilkenny management team jumping around after winning the Leinster final was a long time ago, and I think that really brought them together in terms of spirit, in terms of, like, you know, obviously the night enjoyed it, Monday enjoyed it, and I think it really brought them together. You know, so as a panel, I think they're really together. I think they're really good spirit. They're coming up against a juggernaut now in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, for me, the bench, big difference yesterday towards Clare's bench. You know, Brian Lohan took a long time there before he made changes. Derek was making changes 10 minutes into the second half because he knew they were coming at us. You know, but on Walter Walsh, as I said, Killian Buckley, Pádraig Walsh, Richie Hogan, you know, and they all, Cian Kenny came on, got a point. They all made a bit of a difference. That was one key factor, you know, and a lot of key factors yesterday. Owen Murphy saved, lads. Oh, I don't know. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen in Croke Park. Just phenomenal. You know, first of all, for Peter Duggan, who actually played very well yesterday, in fairness to him. When he just volleyed it, I was there, goal. Like, straight away. That's a goal. It has to be. Because even the manner amount of players that was in front of Owen Murphy, you know, even the time to get to see that ball, and then his athleticism just to kind of jump off the ground and get it, and not even stop it, not even get a hurl to it. Yeah, if you look at it back, he got a little flick to his wrist to even flick it up that little bit more higher, just onto the crossbar. And you know, it was the save, as been said, a race save for the ages. It was just, and Owen Murphy, like, gee, he just.
Well, you can send the All-Star in the post at Glenmore at this stage, can't you?
Oh, look, it's there. Yeah, no, 100%. It's in the back pocket. A no better man, and lovely chap as well. And that was one save, and then he made another brilliant save as well in the first half. You have to remember as well. You know, and his puck outs, everything, and he catching balls, and the ball going over the bar, and he caught it. It was dropped. It looks like dropped short. But he actually caught it. It was going over the bar, and he just leapt off his feet and caught it. Just superb. But lads, that save, I've never seen that like it. One of the best saves I've ever seen in Croke Park. And in the context of the game, of where the match was at, in the enormity of the match itself, semi-final, it had everything.
I was saying to the lads that in that split second, the whole stadium went eerily quiet because no one knew where the ball was after Peter Duggan had volleyed it. And then it went nearly into fast forward when they realised that he had done this incredible thing. But aside from the incredible save, and something that's probably gone under the radar, is TJ Reid is now all-time top scorer with another incredible performance yesterday, and a real battling performance.
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose that was another aspect maybe of the win, how clinical Kilkenny were. The big players stood up. Owen Murphy in the goal, TJ Reid, Owen Cody stood up, Adrian Mullen, you know, Conor Fogarty. These lads were just immense. But TJ Reid, lads, what I seen him doing yesterday, the man is 36 years of age next year. He was on the 14-yard line clearing balls, getting fouled. He was catching ball. He was bringing players into the game. He was winning frees. He was scoring unbelievable frees. Like it just looked so easy for him. But he was on his own 65. He was below. He was on the 70-yard line, and he's putting balls over the bar. And the man was just rolling back the years. Just so humble as a person himself. It's just second nature to him now to be turning up into these games and doing what he's doing. It was absolutely phenomenal. 12 points, I think, in total. Sideline cuts. Then you can throw it in for a bit of crack there towards the end to go 2 points up. It was absolutely phenomenal what he did. All-time scorer now. No better man deserves it better. At the beginning of the year, you know, he was kind of struggling for a bit of match fitness, but we knew that the more matches TJ gets into him, the better he will get, and we need a massive one from him obviously in 2 weeks' time. But just in yesterday's performance, he was just absolutely phenomenal. And then the lad beside him, you know, it's hard to believe a small club in Kilkenny like Ballyhale, and they're producing a TJ Reid and an Owen Cody and an Adrian Mullen. Like, that would take massive stopping in any club scene. I thought Owen Cody was just phenomenal. 1-5 from play. You know, everything, the goal even they got, and you talk about work rate, you talk about, I suppose, at the breakdown of the game, and you know, the way they set up matchups. Mikey Butler did a great job on Tony Kelly once again, but you talk about the things that win matches, and I suppose managers want to talk about hooks, blocks, possessions, winning their own ball, you know, all the kind of the cliche stuff really, and the easy talk about stuff. But that goal came from Billy Ryan, who was probably not having a brilliant game up front, but was doing his job in terms of getting flicks. He got that little flick in, and albeit a risky mistake from you know, Rory Hayes to come out with the ball and try to run it out. But what do you lump it long and be given out to just hitting aimless ball down the field, or do you stick to your game plan and try to run it out? And just got caught. And Owen Coy didn't have enough of time, but buried in the back of the net. And if you look even at the Galway game the other night, not to go away from the Kilkenny game, the smallest of margins and the smallest of you know, things wins matches. If you look at the save Owen Murphy made, came off the crossbar, and Hugh Lauder got a bit of a hit to clear kind of the lines more so. You know, got it out enough so the goal wasn't on. Mannion yesterday got a flick, or Saturday even, got a flick. Wasn't didn't even look to where he was hitting it, and it came to Glan, buried in the back of the net. And then the goal chance maybe Conor Whelan missed. Well, it was more of a save, maybe more so from Casey. That the hand pass, it was just maybe 3 seconds, that little bit high, it looped up, and Conor Whelan had to wait for it to come down, allowing the defence to get back and kind of cover. If that hand pass was just like maybe TJ's, just inch perfect, that could have been a goal, you know. And they're the fine margins to win matches, and they're the things maybe that Clare missed out on yesterday, was the clinical of Kilkenny, taking the right option at the right time. You know, there was wides. Clare only drove 9 wide, but still Kilkenny only drove 6 wides. You talk about such fine margins in big games.
Yeah, I think Clare 23 wides in the same fixture last year, so clearly different from that perspective. Shane O'Donnell, brilliant game as well. Taggy, and probably unlucky, you know, when someone has a performance like that in Croke Park in a semi-final and they're on the losing side, it's disappointing. Were you surprised on 70 minutes to see Aaron Shanahan coming into the fray so late? Obviously, I don't know if he was carrying a knock or whatever. I don't think he was, but some of the decision making from that regard by Brian Lohan
has put him in the red in the performance rankings.
Maybe that's why. Yeah. But were you surprised to see that, Taggy?
Look, it was. Yeah, I really was. I thought a few changes. I thought first of all at half time that they had to change the whole system, and they did. They went away from the sweeper system. I was very surprised that they didn't bring lads off the bench. I couldn't understand it. Aaron Shanahan for me is a kind of guy that comes on and he's a target, and if you're looking for goals and if you're looking to win the matches, if you had Aaron Shanahan and Peter Duggan in there, that's definitely an out ball. He's done it in the past. He's got big goals. He's a ball winner. He can create havoc in that full forward line, and just bring in something different, you know, just to shake it up, because, you know, Clare were getting to grips of the game, but Kilkenny kept coming back at them, and they weren't really, you know, getting that 2-3 points ahead. So why not make the change? And look, if you look at the flip side, Derek May changes very, very quick. He emptied his bench, used 5 subs. I think the Clare only used 2, maybe 3 subs yesterday. I'm not too sure. But look, it goes in training, I suppose, as well, guys. You have to see, like, was he going well in training? Was he not? Was it just kind of pluck him out of the stand for the sake of it? But I would have put Aaron Shanahan on just for that out ball, and if they're looking for a goal and they needed a goal towards the end of that game, they weren't going to win it by getting points. He was the man to put on. So maybe decision making there was a bit slow. We've seen it in the Munster final where Hayes on Gillane, like, it should have been changed for me after 20-25 minutes, and he was left on. But look, it's easy me talk here on a Monday morning when they're in the heat of battle. And I find sometimes when they're on the sideline, for me anyway, it's actually very hard to see kind of sometimes what's going on the pitch. I like to be like 10 seats up with a bit of height, so I can kind of have an overview of the match. So definitely changes there should have been made, I felt.
I was asking Jackie Tyrrell on Saturday how he'd deal with Gillan, right? And he basically took out a copybook and tried to draw a diagram. Okay, he was going to play him from the front, from the side, from the left, from the right. There was a fella coming in behind. It was all.
There's only one way Jackie Tyrrell to play Gillan now, and I think we know what way that would be. He'd be trying to shove him over that sideline every minute he'd get.
And I'd say he'd still love the chance. Yeah, I could see him itching to get in, but you know the shift now focuses to Limerick, doesn't it? And I suppose what you can do to suffocate the likes of Gillan. And would you be worried?
Yeah, I'm worried about Gillan, I'm worried about Flanagan, I'm worried about Hegarty, I'm worried about Lynch, I'm worried about 18 or 19 guys there in the green jersey, to be honest. Look, I'm going to enjoy this Clare one anyway for at least 24 hours, and I might sit down and think about it tomorrow. But no, Gillan, I think Gillan is he's in for Hurler of the Year. I think with Owen Cody, I think whoever wins the All-Ireland will probably end up picking it up. It depends on the All-Ireland performance, of course, but the two boys are in serious form. Gillan is unmarkable. He's getting quality ball in. I think you have to stop it at source. Easier said than done. You say stop it at source. You saw the goal he got against Galway. He caught the ball over Daithí Burke. Not an easy thing to do. That was a 50-50 ball, realistically. And that's Gillan coming in, just being cute and catching it. The man's on fire, but I still think he is making that Limerick team tick. Not just because of the match on Saturday night at the long, like when that Limerick maybe haven't been going as strong as they were. He was the out guy. He was keeping them ticking over when they weren't playing that well, and he was getting scores. The man is phenomenal. One of the greatest corner forwards I've ever seen, and I suppose I bet corner forward myself, but his ability just to kind of have one touch into the hand, 3 steps, and it's either a goal or over the bar. That's serious hurling, and he's collecting the ball around the 21, like corner forward, and he must be starting literally on the end line then, and he must be timing his runs so much, because when you're a corner forward, you're making a run, and sometimes the ball is delayed maybe at 3 or 4 seconds. Next thing you're on the 21, and you're collecting the ball around the 40. That's no good really, because you're out the field, and trying to get the score then is just harder. So his timing of the run, his lateral kind of running, of which and his ability to know, and this is just playing with a team for so long, that the ability of he's going to know where that ball is going to be. That it's just all in sync at the minute. It's just all flowing for him. So
he's starting his run on the goalpost. So he's actually, his ankle is touching the goalpost on some instances, and this season I've had the pleasure of watching a lot of Munster Championship games in the stadium, and his run is so deep, and I had said that to Jackie as well, and he said, well sure, look, he's making so much space for himself, because as you said, if you're starting your run on the 21 and you're going out to the 40, you're eating into the space that you're trying to create for yourself. So that goalpost start is a game changer. It's
absolutely. Like if Owen Murphy now, you want to be strapped into that goal post if he could, and preventing his runs. But that's it. He's starting from so deep, and he's collecting the ball in the danger area of the 21. And his first touch is immense. He's brilliant in the air. He's a very, very, very strong guy. His hurl is, I think, a 32 inch, 33 inch. He's nearly unhookable. He's bringing guys into the game. You've seen his little deft touch there for Flanagan there, just one touch onto Flanagan, bang, over the bar. So as a unit, they're playing very well. Look, Limerick are just a different juggernaut altogether. They're actually, they got so much better in that second half. They were actually getting more physical, they were getting stronger, they were getting more confident, albeit that Galway went out of the game for the last 50 minutes completely. But still, look, they're just a different animal, and they're going for 4 in a row. I suppose just to whet the appetite a small bit. Where the last team that done the 4 in a row was Kilkenny, and look, Kilkenny are in the All-Ireland now, and they won't want a Limerick team to match their record of 4 in a row. So a little bit of motivation, or a little bit of media there for the next.
That's the chip on the shoulder that Owen Cody was talking about yesterday. I think you're feeling very hard done by there up in Leinster with all of your anti-Leinster bias.
I think that, look, I think it came out a little bit in Owen's speech maybe about the talk about Munster hurling, and now the All-Ireland is Limerick and Kilkenny again. But look, the Munster Championships was just brilliant. Like it was point for point, it was just phenomenal. It's just the standard of the teams in Munster are a little bit better than the standard of the teams in Kilkenny, but when they come down to the Kilkennys and the Galways, they can definitely compete with Munster teams. And you see Noam Coley there, small but alright, kind of in between the lines. If you read between the lines, you can see it coming out with small but alright.
Yeah, slightly.
There was no lines, Taggy. There was no lines.
Very honest. Yeah. Can I finally ask you, Taggy, before we let you go, from a Kilkenny perspective, what did you make of the refereeing performance yesterday?
Look, I thought it was relatively good. Look, obviously the big call was the goal that was disallowed. But I felt that they gave him, the ball was hit in. Hugh Lauder, yes, he caught the ball and dropped it, and the whistle was blown. And I just felt that the whistle was gone that millimetre of a second before he latched onto it and before the goal. I felt even Lauder kind of maybe stopped his run slightly, because whether he heard the whistle or he just felt that they were going to get the advantage and it was a free. So that's obviously the big talking point. I know Malone came out and he was kind of giving out about the referee and things like that. I thought overall his display was relatively good. Yes, we won the game. If we lost the game, I would have said the same, to be honest.
Fair. Okay. I believe you. I
don't.
Taggy, great stuff as always. Thanks a million.
Thanks, Taggy.
Thanks, lads. All right, thank you.
Brilliant stuff. In Taggy Fogarty, former Kilkenny hurler, there with us at 8:55 a.m. on this Monday morning's OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball with myself, Shane Hannon, and Sarah O'Donovan on this Monday morning with you. We're going to turn our attention now to matters football, and like I say, Vinny Perth joins us in studio. Morning, Vinny.
Morning. How are we doing?
Morning.
Well.
Good. It's good to talk about something other than hurling every so often.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had literally from
not that everyone here agrees.
No, not everyone agrees.
Take me back to Croke Park immediately.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fair, we've been talking hurling from the start of the show, and it's deservedly got its dues.
Oh, what a weekend! It's brilliant, even for the neutral like myself. I loved it. It's just brilliant to watch.
Yeah, I love the build up. Even as a man, I'm looking forward to this weekend as well. I know you're a Dub, so you'll disagree, but Lee Carsley, future Irish manager, the way he's going, he's after clinching an extraordinary win for England over Spain with that 96th minute penalty as well, just drama.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one, because as soon as England won, I said that will be the sort of hype train will start, which is a little bit unfair on Stephen Kenny, I would say to you, because look, Lee Carsley's obviously done a really good job. They've won the tournament and they haven't conceded a goal, I don't think, and it was excellent from them. And I watched a couple of the games and it was really good. But he's dealing with probably the most talented under-21 squad in the world, and it's just another tick in the box of his career and his development. And we always look at stuff with green tinted glasses here when it comes to football, but what I will say about it is his own personal development, we don't know what that looks like, and to come over to Ireland and manage Ireland, if that job comes up, what's the salary, what salary can he get in the UK, what's his own development? He'd probably earn more money in a championship club, for argument's sake. So it's a long way down the road.
Less pressure if he gets to take a championship.
Yeah, and
the Irish job has to be.
You look at the players. You look at the players he's dealing with. I mean, Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones, two household names for many Liverpool fans. I think they play week in, week out for Ireland, or when we got together. So look, he's done a really good job. Anthony Gordon was their main centre forward, or played up front for them, so tactically he got some stuff right as well that worked. But they've got some extremely talented players in that group, and he's done what was probably expected. Like, not winning the tournament would have been deemed as failure, and you compare their 21s to the Irish 21s, and chalk and cheese.
Yeah, completely. I don't know if we've been talking about to you since the couple of Irish transfers, Premier League transfers were completed in the last week or so. Nathan Collins, of course, to Brentford, and Chidozie Ogbenya to Luton Town. The Ogbenya one in particular came as a bit of a surprise. I didn't maybe expect that he'd get a Premier League switch, although we all probably in this country feel he's worthy of it. But two good moves. Yeah,
two really good moves. I think Chidozie one's interesting because you'd imagine Luton won't have a lot of the ball at different stages as they go up to the Premiership, and I think his sort of pace and his ability to play in a couple of positions mean he'll be one that'll be fascinating for us to watch from an Irish perspective in terms of his counter-attacking play, whether he plays as a wing back or he can play up front on his own at different stages for Luton. So that will be a really interesting. It's a brilliant opportunity for him to sort of one good season, no matter how Luton do, would really put him in a good place. And he was a free agent as well, so he's been really clever and picked a really good move for himself. So I'm really excited to see how that one works out. Again, use the language around the Irish team, green tinted glasses. We expect we think really highly of these players, but in England they've seen them week in, week out, and it's such a hard, like, to be a Premiership footballer now, you've got to be an exceptional footballer. I don't think that was always the case. Like, to be involved in any of the squads in the top 6 now, you're not far off world class, whatever that word means. But so to be in that elite level is a huge move from, and particularly where he's come from. I remember scouting him for Limerick back in the day, and we tried to sign him at Dundalk, and now he's a Premiership player, and it just shows you how football is so and sport at the highest level is. Well,
it's probably a David Myler kind of scenario. Who ends up in the same situation 10 years ago.
Kevin Doyle is another good example from Cork, where I would have played against Kevin, and to be honest, I wouldn't, like, he was good, but he wasn't, and then all of a sudden he's 20 goals in the Premiership within a year or two. So football's like that.
How does that happen? Like, you get a standout player sometimes at the juvenile level or underage level, even under 15, 16s that don't quite make it, and then lads who are maybe even considered the 5th or 6th best player on their team at junior football level, and then they end up making it. It's just late development, maybe.
It is. So I was something off script, but I was listening to something. How old was Obama when he became president and Trump was 70? There's probably 20. Everyone's moment comes at different stages in their life.
That was off script.
Sorry. Everyone's moment comes at different stages, right? So something stupid that popped into my phone yesterday. But
that's a fair point.
But so look, everyone develops, and look, you have to be talented, and you hear some people criticise, I don't know, some players, like people might have talked about John O'Shea, who was only a bit part player, but you can't be a bit part player and average and spend 10 years around one of the best clubs.
He was brilliant by all accounts at juvenile level.
Yeah, so look, it is just the environment you go to, the manager you work with, and football. Like, you look at go back to the hurling yesterday. The save on the line in the game changes the game, and football is full, or sport is full of sliding door moments, and it is.
You look at Denise O'Sullivan with Houston Dash. Her career is finished. She gets a move. Now she's a world class player. There are these mad sliding moments in soccer, especially where you get the opportunity. You don't get the same opportunity to transfer in hurling. It's very rare.
Rare.
Enough, but rare. I think that's what hurling needs. It has
some people transfer counties even
in and out. But we agree with you. Like, it's managers, environment, and these are two incredibly good moves this year in a very competitive pool.
What I will say about Nathan Collins' one is interesting. I think he needs to find, like, I remember being here a year ago and we were discussing whether he was good enough to go to a top 6 club, and I just felt Wolves was a great move for him to go and play week in, week out, and it started well. From changing manager didn't help him, but I think he needs a consistent run at a club, and somewhere like Brentford where he just plays 30 odd games, and particularly a centre half, he can go on for another 7, 8, 9 years at the highest level, and I just think it's a really good move for him in the sense of being able to play week in, week out, and the manager at Brentford looks exceptional as well, and someone that you'd love to play for.
Yeah, Thomas Frank, definitely one of those managers that you'd be happy for the Irish players to go and play under. These European weeks for League of Ireland teams, there must be strange enough weeks to prepare for as a manager, because I know Stephen Bradley was asked last week before the Drogheda game, will you be playing your strongest team? And he was like, of course, but he's obviously going to say that regardless. But then again, Rovers missing the opportunity against Drogheda, this bogey team that seems to have come out of nowhere for Shamrock Rovers, but you do have one eye on a European game, don't you?
From a players do, manager obviously doesn't. I mean, you look at Richie Towell, for example. There was 2 young lads, Darren Noonan and Nugent, both played, and you see the likes of Richie Towell on the bench, and you're like, okay, what's that about? Obviously must have been carrying some sort of an injury. They're missing a lot of players at the moment, and that was a really poor result for. I know people talk about bogey size, but it's just another draw, and it's like not putting the league to bed, because Europe is huge for Rovers in terms of the finance of being a Champions League team is just exceptional. So the Champions route is huge. They would have made over 3 million in prize money last year, and you can imagine any League of Ireland club, that's huge finance in terms of building and sponsorship and building the brand, which they've done so well. So this is a huge week for them. For the players, it's probably the best week of the season. They absolutely love this. The Champions League music. It might be round 1, but it's
into your soul, doesn't isn't it?
It's such a good moment to experience it. I'll never forget, like when we played Legia Warsaw in the playoff round for the Champions League, like the proper centre circle had the ball, the stars, and the music, and we're in the Aviva, and over in Legia was just in like 40,000 odd, and then you think you've made it, and I mean that in a nice way, but it's such a big moment. So
what was your first Champions League game as manager?
Well, I had a couple, but they were like aside from Wales, and then we went on to the sort of the bigger ties. Slovan Bratislava were sort of the biggest sort of ties from a Champions League point of view. But what you'll find with Shamrock Rovers players is they get a huge boost. They'll see the opportunity to become a group stage team again, and being at European level is everything about it is better. You feel better, so it's very easy for the players, and
puts them in a window as well, an international window to be picked up. If they have opportunity to progress.
I think what helps League of Ireland clubs is it gives us national recognition first and foremost. I think that was the big change in 2016 that I certainly noticed, and I told this story before. I was working in conjunction with Musgraves, and remember we played the Champions League night and we beat Bate Borisov, and the following morning I was in the centre on Dame Street, remember very clearly, and the electrician said, "I know your face from somewhere." And it was he came off his break and he had the back of a newspaper and it was a picture of me and Stephen Kenny hugging each other, and I was like it gives you that, but it gives that's a stupid story of me, but it gives these players sort of national recognition. So League of Ireland players are obviously fighting a strong word, but we're competing for space. With you look at the amazing weekend that the hurling has just had, and we'll have
flash in the pan. We're gone now.
You're actually starting to make it easy for us. To be fair to the hurling, they're starting to make it easy because they disappear for so long, and Jack Bourne is becoming a star, and then you look at Clifford. I don't think I've seen him play live this year.
David Clifford,
or sorry, not live, even on TV. I'm not sure I have.
A lot of Kerry games in GA.
Yeah, so this is our opportunity from a soccer point of view with the European stuff to go and sort of build our own brand, and it is amazing that the amount of people on the street that follow League of Ireland more when European stuff, so the casual football fan will certainly have a huge interest in these results. And big week for Rovers, probably one of they played an Icelandic side who will make it difficult for them, and it's huge getting through, because said it before, when you're in the Champions route, you've got 3 competitions: Champions League, Europa League and Conference, and once you lose in the Champions League, you go into the next round of Europa League, and when you lose that, you go in the next round of Conference. So it's set up to look after clubs like Shamrock Rovers to hopefully have another group stage in them, and I think winning the first game is crucial. It's probably worth over £1 million easily in terms of prize money this game, so it's a huge moment for the club and for the league. And we've got some good draws this year. We play teams from the Faroe Islands, from Gibraltar and from Luxembourg for the other 3 clubs, all winnable ties, and I really, really hope that we can get 4 wins this year, and I think we're starting to get closer to that, and we're getting closer to a second team in the group stage of the conference, and we've got good coaches now who know how to coach at European level, and I think that's important, and as I said, it gives us that recognition that we need.
Is there any concern, and I know this is not Shamrock Rovers' fault as such, but I was down at Roadstone, the Shamrock Rovers Academy there last week, chatting with Gavin Bazunu, and I was so impressed with the facilities, really, really good facilities out there. And saying they get £1 million prize money for getting to a group stage or whatever, is there a concern that the gap between Rovers and the rest only gets bigger because of their development? As I say, look, it's not their fault, and they're not to blame for progressing in Europe, and it's a brilliant thing for Irish football, but could the gap between Rovers and the rest get bigger?
I take all that with a pinch of salt. I mean, when Dundalk done so well in 2016, everyone said that was it for years, and they won over 6 million, and football sport is so, you get things happen at different moments. I mean,
where did the money go?
Well, that's a big question that a lot of people have tried to answer, and no one has actually answered because they don't know the facts, but that's a bigger story. So
we'll move that one on.
One day we maybe I should write a book instead of other people, but look, what I'll say to you is, these things happen. Like in hurling, Limerick are the best team, and they're going to go on and dominate for the next few years, and just something will happen where
comes in cycles.
You get
and not having to play centre back, and
little moments where we were going to split the Dubs in two not that long ago, and then people telling me Dubs won't win for another few years. Look, Rovers is still ahead of everyone else. The finance is huge, but we've got clubs like Derry City now who are got good finance, an owner who's willing to put money in. Their European run is crucial. I think Pats, if they get through the next round, their run is crucial. So everyone looks like they can make some money. And to be fair, what Rovers have done this year in the league is they've lost 4 and drawn 8 out of 22, 23 games.
Yeah,
they're not that far ahead of everybody. So no, that's not a concern of mine. That's just, I think that's I don't buy that.
Vinny, speaking with my Cork hat on, would the Cork City job ever be attractive to you?
Yeah, it would. It's one of the best jobs in the country. So yes, absolutely.
Are you saying that sarcastically or not?
No, it is one of the best football jobs in the country. What I like about Cork is you talk about how do you catch Shamrock Rovers as a league. Well, you get a good Cork side and you get 6,000 people into your ground every week, and you get a good owner, and Cork will push Shamrock Rovers with the right manager, with the right structure and the right owner, and I think they're getting closer to that. So absolutely, Cork's a brilliant job for somebody to get a hold of, and I know they've brought Liam Buckley in as a director of football, and they've won some games recently. Got to stay in the league first this year, because finishing second bottom is a playoff, and Waterford are waiting in the long grass in second for whoever finishes there. So they've got to stay in the league, but Cork should be a top 2 or 3 team in League of Ireland terms. Absolutely.
Sticking on with Cork.
Thanks for that awkward question. I appreciate it.
You had to think about it, but no, to be fair, Cork City fans leaving Richmond Park on Friday night would have been absolutely delighted to get the draw, because I think Pats will be sickened that they didn't close the gap on Rovers to 2 points. Rory Keating getting that last minute equaliser for Cork, probably stunning the Pats fans, because it didn't feel like a game that Cork were going to get anything from.
No, I watched a good bit of that game yesterday, in terms just from a scouting point of view, and what I like about Cork is they've got stuff to fix. There's a reason why they're second bottom in the league and things haven't gone that well at different stages, but what they have is they've got goal scorers, and Rory Keating, when you give him a chance, will score. He's not the only one, so once you've got someone who's going to score your goals, they'll give you a real opportunity. So they've got to get a little bit more consistency in terms of, if you had a run of good games, what's not helping them is we all thought Drogheda would struggle a little bit more, and they've had a really good season. They just need to get ahead of Drogheda psychologically, and then I think they can probably kick on. So what's important for Cork is we sort of know that how do I say this? They're an average enough team at the moment. So where's their biggest advantage? From most teams that to travel a fair way down to Cork and get the shed full, get everyone behind them, and just keep that club in the Premier Division for next season. With the new owners, you'd like to think, and new structures, Cork can kick on. So it's one of them. It's not for me to make a plea for Cork fans. I'm not sure I'm the most popular down there from me Dundalk days. There was an amazing, brilliant rivalry there.
Mourinho wasn't popular at Old Trafford, and he ended up managing there at some stage.
True. But look, the point I make is
the train to Cork is very handy. If you're
and the road to Cork
is the real capital as well. Apparently,
but look, I'm not doing a job interview here, I promise. But go back to Cork real quickly. They've got to get results on the board. They can, and you sort of need. It's such an intimidating place to go to Turner's Cross, and that can be worth 4-6 points to them over the next while, and they probably need that, I would say.
A 5-goal thriller at Dalymount Park. Bows 3, Dundalk 2 on Friday night as well. 2 goals in 2 minutes from John O'Sullivan and Jonathan Afalabi, someone we've spoken about before in the show, but big boost for Bohemians and their European chances for next season.
I think they needed that win. They've got to now back it up while the other clubs are in Europe, the other 4 that are around them. They've got to get some wins now. It was, I wouldn't say pressure on Declan Devine, but I'd say he felt he needed that win badly. And again, watching that game, there wasn't a lot in it. I thought Dundalk would see the game out, and then it just switched, and Dundalk were a little bit open for the third goal. And again, you go back to the crowds and different things. It was a great atmosphere in Dalymount Park on Friday night, and that got them over the line, and it was a huge win for them. they've had a difficult couple of weeks, and to bounce back was huge for them. And you look at momentum Dundalk had going into that game, and then it just stops and it hits a block, and that's sort of 20 minutes. And but a couple of big players stood up for McManus in particular has been excellent for Bows of late. So really big a moment for them. And as I said, they've got a couple of games in hand now. The others are going to be hopefully winning games in Europe and just tick away those 3 points and just get themselves moving up.
Yeah, the other 2 games we didn't get to touch on, Derry City 2, Sligo Rovers 1, and U City 0, Shells 4. I think
just to make a point on Derry, I think that goal, Will Patching penalty, is huge. I think Derry now, because they had McElhenney, Patching, Duffy back on the pitch, Dummigan and Connolly, who've all missed. That goal from Patching, that winning goal the other night, is a huge moment. They're right in this title race if Rovers continue to drop points. They've brought in a centre forward. He needs to hit the ground running, but they are right in the title race, and I'd expect
more so than Pats.
It feels that way to me, but Pats have surprised everybody in the results. But I would say Rovers will fear probably Derry more than Pats. Doesn't mean that it'll finish that way. So I think that was a huge moment in the league in terms of still expect Rovers to win, as I've always said. But Derry, Patching's goal was huge for them in terms of confidence going into Europe, getting players back fit. And I know it's been a difficult time for everyone up there in terms of there's the situation with Rory's family, Higgins' family. So hopefully they have a good run over the European campaign.
Absolutely. Vinny, great stuff as always. You can leave the CV with Sarah. She'll bring it down to Cork for you there.
She's had to throw me under the bus there.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah, well, there you go. Come and get me, play, or call it, play.
Dublin, Cork. I'm not sure how that works.
You've heard of it, yeah. Unbelievable. But great stuff, Vinny. Thanks for popping in as per usual with us on this morning, Monday morning's OTB AM at 9:15 on Monday morning. Here are some highlights coming up in the OTB podcast network across the day. We'll have Michael Murphy, the Donegal star who was on across the weekend. All the hurling reaction as well from the 2 weekend semi-finals, and Rugby Daily as well. After the break, Alan Quinlan joins myself and Sarah in studio talking the under-20s as they made the under-20 World Championship final of the weekend. Brilliant win over South Africa. During the break, you'll have a clip from the latest Koi Gig pod where Kathleen and Karen Duggan pay tribute to a very dedicated young fan of the Irish team. The Koi Gig pod on OTB in association with Cadbury, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland's women's national team. Back in a sec.
Counting down to more moments like this.
There'll be no more playoffs. There'll be no more heartbreak, because Ireland have finally done it. They have qualified for the 2023 World Cup Finals.
Hashtag OTB Koi Gig. Off the Ball Daily.
A home for your favourite podcasts from Off the Ball. The performance rankings, a slight tangent, the crappy quiz, and you had to be there.
This was my Desert Island discs, for years. I have my Desert Island discs there ready, and I had my 5. You had to be there ready as well.
Subscribe to the Off the Ball Daily podcast feed right now.
Now, we did put a call out a week or so ago looking for Ireland's best supporters, and we had some really great entries, and every couple of podcasts, probably I think we're doing about 2 podcasts over the World Cup per week, so we'll probably pick one every couple of weeks. But yeah, we are picking our supporters and a half, Karen. And this week we got an email in from Catherine Keegan, who wanted to nominate her football crazy little 9-year-old Emily, aka Emzo. So Emzo's been to every Ireland women's home team match since she was 3 years old. She lives and breathes the squad, and they're a huge inspiration to her in her own little football career. She's played football since she was 4, starting off with the lads, then playing a year up with girls, moving to her own age last year where she netted over 25 goals. That's not too bad a return, Karen. Yeah. And more than that in assists in a season where Catherine coached her team and they went unbeaten the entire season in the top league for her age. She also follows the Shamrock Rovers women's team, which we won't comment on that, and has been to every game of theirs with the exception of Sligo. Missing out. Sligo's a great spot since they started this season. Her main inspirations are Katie McCabe, Denise O'Sullivan and Alana McAvoy, who she absolutely adores. She is a supporter and a half. Every photographer knows her by name and call her for photos at different games. Not only is she the loudest and the most passionate fan ever, she makes signs and brings them to every game. So thank you very much, Catherine, for submitting her as your supporter and a half. Sounds like she is more than worthy of the title, and she's also our first inaugural one, so pretty good. A little clap there from Captain Karen, can't take it.
I actually met her at the Shamrock Rovers game as well, so
there you go.
They're not lying.
Karen has the proof in the pudding. If you would like to nominate someone as a supporter and a half, please do get them in to us at the koigigpod@offtheball.com, or else you can DM us on our Twitter at the koigigpod.
OTB AM.
The Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball.
Yeah, approaching 9:20 on this Monday morning's OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show Off the Ball with myself and Sarah O'Donovan. In with you this morning, Alan Quinlan. Good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Keeping well. Wonderful win for the under-20s. I was watching the France-England game yesterday evening, and I mean, the way it started, I was like, oh, this is England's game. No, they're not going to lose this match. Unbelievable start, but France came back into it. But from an Irish perspective, pretty pleased with that performance, generally speaking.
Yeah, I think they soaked up a lot of pressure. I think certainly wouldn't have been the type of first half that Richie Murphy or the players would have wanted themselves. Not if you took away the scoreboard, because Ireland were 7-0 up at half time, which was remarkable really, given the pressure they were under. No real clear-cut chances for South Africa, but they were hammering away for a long time, playing most of the game in Ireland's half. But this Irish side have shown I think Gus McCarthy described them as a pack of dogs afterwards, and it was a good description, to be honest, because they're tough, Shane. They're tough as nails, to be fair to them. And I don't know if people kind of, for me as a former player, I was kind of going, this is a team I'd like to be in, because they're tenacious and they're very tight as well. They seem to be, and look, obviously what they've been through in the last week, I think for Andrew Wall and Maxwell and Andrew O'Donnell, the Michaels lads who tragically passed away, that had a kind of a direct impact into, there was I think 6 people in the group who were in Michaels and would have known those boys who died way too young, tragically. They were dealing with that, and then for Greg Oliver to pass away the day before the match, tragically again, the father of Jack. It's a lot for young people to kind of take in, and to go out and play Fiji then. And I was worried yesterday, because I thought, in some ways, and this, I hope this doesn't sound disrespectful, I think you kind of have a cause. Delayed emotion game, and for the Fiji game, kind of it's all so real and so recent. You kind of have that cause to go, well, we're not going out to let anyone down here, and we've no choice. It was kind of like when Axel passed away in Limerick, when
playing for something.
Munster went out to play Glasgow that day. You just felt nobody in the world is going to beat Munster this day, because it can't happen. Their players are not going to allow it to happen. There was a little bit of that, the way Fiji presented the jersey. It was a lovely moment that they were going to, even though they made mistakes in the game. I worried a little bit yesterday that, it was 4 or 5 days after, and the emotional kind of turmoil and how that be processed. But obviously, they had people in, spoke to them, tried to kind of talk about it, because, you can put on a brave face and say, look, I'm fine and all that. But that's what's so impressive for me, the way they were able to, stick together and perform. And if you look at the scoreline, it's a little bit surreal, isn't it? 31-12, against the host nation.
7-0 at half time, as you say.
Yeah. And their defence and their work rate is just through the roof. I think they make life difficult for themselves at times with some mistakes and decision making, but they seem to react every time. If they have a mistake, they kind of dust themselves off, which is a lovely kind of mentality as young people. We see older sports people, sometimes it can kind of bog you down, can't it? If something goes wrong on a match, and you're always trying to tell kids, look, you've got to get over the mistake, the next ball,
absolutely,
and move on. And they do it perfectly. They just seem to go, well, let's the next action. And you could analyse their games and say, well, certain things got to be different. And I think they've improved as the tournament went on. And if you go back to the first game against England, they lose that game, and potentially they're not in this final. That's how tight it is when you have 3 groups of 4. So hang on first of all in that game and make sure it was a draw. When they kind of had the game won on the 65th minute, England came back and they were hanging on for dear life. They've had a couple of sightings, injuries, and all the other stuff. So look, they're going to be up against it against France, but I just thought the second half yesterday, South Africa scored just after half time after missing 2 kickable penalties by their out half, John Smith, who hadn't missed a kick in the tournament in the other 3 games. He missed 2 very kickable penalties, and you think, oh God, maybe it's one of those days where things are going to go right. Sam Prendergast drops the ball out and they end up scoring off the second miss, and they end up scoring a try, and you're thinking, right, that's the kind of door open now for South Africa here. And Ireland just go upfield, and Brian Gleeson scores that wonderful try off the line out, and they just kick on, and they're an incredibly impressive group, to be fair, and it's wonderful to see them in the final.
So that period earlier in the year, that tournament they played, I remember seeing a couple of games down in Musgrave Park. Like Sam Prendergast obviously coming into the fore. Yeah. In terms of what they know about France from kind of that experience, do you think that helps?
Well, they know what's coming. I think if you look at France, I kind of have before yesterday's game, like in the pool matches, they had maximum points, 3 wins, 22 tries scored, 7 conceded. So it's 22 tries in 3 games. They got 6 yesterday again. 1 in the first half and 5 in the second half, and had 1 or 2 tries disallowed. So they could have been 8 or 9 tries. They've improved a lot, Sarah, and they've brought in a couple of players. Posolo Tuolangi, who's only 18, he's 145 kilos. He's in the second row. He's a son of Henry Tuolangi, who played for Perpignan in France, and I played against Henry Tuolangi.
Big man as well.
Big man is an understatement. He's absolutely massive, and Henry would be in and out of the game, kind of, but he makes this charge and you're going backwards. Your best bet is just close your eyes and kind of hope that he doesn't bolt you 20 yards backwards. But as all the Tuolangis, we've seen him play for Leicester and you know, for the younger one, Manu Tuolangi plays for England. Obviously, he's had a lot of injuries. Freddie Tuolangi would have been another brother, played with Leicester played against him in the European final in 2002. But Henry played with Perpignan. His son is 18 now. He's 145 kilos, so they're after kind of calling him into the squad.
Squads anyway.
And he's heavily involved in what they're doing. But they have some brilliant players. You know, Max Gazzotti, the number 8. What a footballer! You know, we talk about Brian Gleeson and the impact he's having. Gazzotti for them is a wonderful footballer, you know. And they've so many good players. But in saying that, Ireland, going back to answer your question, Sarah, I kind of drifted away there. That game in Cork, Ireland won 33-31. And it was one of those games you felt Ireland kind of got away with this. Okay. They were kind of, the physicality at times was kind of a little bit at a level that you thought Ireland were going to get blown away here. But
so is that confidence, or is that you can't beat the same team twice in a year?
Yeah, I think it's confidence in one way. It depends what way you look at it, and they will look at it and say, okay, we know France are very strong physically and they're a very good side. They have great speed and tempo to their game. So if you allow them play, they can do that magical French flair, and they have lots of players who can do that. But I think it's a real kind of wake-up call for players. And if I was one of the players, you're thinking, right, I've got to be on the money here physically. I've got to have my mentality right and be ready for this, you know, kind of up the aggression levels and all that kind of stuff. So the worst thing they can try and do is think you can contain them, and that's going to win you a game. Ireland, and they've shown this, and I'm sure Richie Murphy will want his team. They're a brilliant side when they play and when they hold on to the ball. So I think he'll want his side to play and not solely focus on stopping France. France are a very dangerous side. So in summary, France have got better. Okay. I think Ireland have got better as well, and they've got more depth in their squad, Ireland, which is impressive because they have lots of the impact off the bench is very good. But that was probably a game in Cork that France could have won. Ireland could have lost it. You know, I think that Prendergast kicks a penalty at the end to win it for them. Of course, that gives you confidence.
Yeah.
that if you get stuff
and
right,
there's no fear of the unknown. Sometimes you can build teams up in your head.
And you know yourself, Sarah, when you get into finals, sometimes it kind of levels a bit out. You can be very conscious and aware of the team you're playing, that they're favourites mainly for what they've done in this tournament. France, they've kind of blown everyone away. They, like when you beat a New Zealand team like they did in round 2. Round 1, was it round 2? I'm not sure. Round 2, I think.
There's going to be hype.
Yeah, of course there is, and people are going to take notice. But they've done wonderful, the under-20s Ireland.
There will be obvious parallels with the 2016 team. The only previous time we've had an under-20 side in the world final. That time that was a defeat to England in the final, 45 points to 21. England were the hosts, of course, back in 2016. And a few Irish players, to be fair, came through that 2016 team in the senior ranks. But of this current crop, who can you see kind of following that path?
It's hard, and it's I don't know. It's not unnecessary pressure. It's an opinion from me. Lots of people have different opinions. If you look at 2016, James Ryan was the captain of that team in Manchester. 2 years later, he's running out in Twickenham winning a Grand Slam for Ireland. That's a quick acceleration. So is Andrew Porter. So is Jacob Stockdale. So there's 3 of those guys who started in Manchester, played in Manchester, and then 2 years later they're down in Twickenham. Incredible, such young players, and they've obviously they're very important players now in the pro game. Stockdale is in the squad but not starting for Ireland, but Porter and James Ryan, you think they're starters every time Ireland go out nowadays. Shane Daly played, and he had a brilliant end of season, brilliant season with Munster. Jimmy O'Brien, Will Connors, Max Deegan. There's lots of more
Hugo
players.
Keenan was there as well.
Hugo Keenan. So, number of those players, maybe 8-10 of them came through, and they're playing regularly now with their provinces. So, if you're looking at it for a parallel, of course, there's a number of these players that are going to make it and come through, and. You want me to start picking out players who are going to make it?
Who do you think? Brian Gleeson is the obvious first pick, isn't he? Like, as a tip man, you're going to put Gleeson straight away.
Yeah, I think the captain has been, of course, Paddy McCarthy at Loosehead. He's a brother of Joe McCarthy. He's a brilliant player. He's played tighthead in the Six Nations. He's over Loosehead now because Ronan Fox is in tighthead.
Versatile.
Brilliant player. Really tough. Not just a good scrummager, but a great footballer around the field. The captain, Gus McCarthy, what a player. He's been a great leader for them as well, and again, mad for the ball in his hands, all action all over the field, great work rate. It's kind of unfair to be picking guys out here, but I suppose there's a number of them. All the forwards, Charlie Irvine, who's come in for this tournament, he's into the academy now in Ulster. He's a big prospect. Conor O'Tiernig, brilliant player as well. The back row, I probably, if I was to scrutinise that more, Dermot Mangan, Ruan Quinn and Brian Gleeson, and I highlighted them yesterday in the match. They all had big games. They all had big impacts. Gleeson has 4 tries scored in the tournament in essentially 3 games, because he only came off the bench against England because he had an injury in the lead up. He also came off against Fiji, so it's not even probably 3 full games. He scored a number of tries in the Six Nations. He's a machine. He's powerful. Didn't have it all his own way yesterday, because you're playing the margins and the opportunity of space is tightening up a little bit, and you're playing against a very physical side. But right across that forward pack, they all have a chance of really going on to the next level. It depends. You need a bit of luck with injuries, all that kind of stuff, but they were a kind of mainstay, that group, and James McNabney as well, who picked up a suspension. They did brilliantly in the Six Nations, and they've kind of continued on in this tournament. The big ones and the most kind of high profile ones is the Sam Prendergast, Sonny Bill Williams tweeting about him for the offload. He's a very talented player. I think he brought his kicking boots yesterday,
he had some difficulties earlier in the tournament.
Well, he missed 4 kickable conversions.
But he was impeccable in the Six Nations, so there was always going to be a
of course.
And I think he's still learning. There's a lot of pressure, everything. You're probably handling the ball 70-80 times in a game as an out half. You're always going to have 1 or 2 mistakes. It's difficult to imagine touching the ball 80 times, and you're supposed to kind of have good moments in all those 80.
77% conversion.
So you're going,
yeah.
But aside from the kicking, you're touching the ball a lot. You've a lot of decisions to make, and I still think he's learning. But he's a brilliant player, and
crossfield kicks as well.
Yeah, they were yesterday 2 great crossfield kicks. Finted gun, all action scrum half inside him as well. And John Devine is someone I spoke about at 12. He's been kind of ever present in his team, and so many positive involvements as well. So James Nicholson, who didn't start against England, he's 2 tries right across the board. Hugh Cooney, who picked up a suspension, Henry McErleen. There's loads of them. It is a bit unfair because you're leaving someone out. Hugh Gavin has been really good for the team as well. So there's a lot of big players. If you're asking me to pick out 2-3 players now, I think you're obviously. Ruan Quinn is 116 kilos. He's 19. He is just so powerful and explosive with his carries.
Like compared to Tuolangi,
he's down
30 kilos to put on there.
But 116 or 17 kilos as an open side wing forward. You know, my playing weight when I felt I was, strong and no problem, playing at the top level, and physically I wasn't like God. I was probably 109-10 kilos.
Right, and he's 19 and he's
6 or 7 kilos heavier than I would have been when I was very comfortable at 109 or 10 kilos. That's 17 and a half stone thereabouts. I fluctuated for a wing forward. That's not small.
Hefty,
but he's 116 kilos. Brian Gleeson is 118 kilos.
Right.
He's underage next year. He's 19 since February. Brian Gleeson. So he's 118 kilos, but he can move as well. I'm not kind of saying it's all about size. Richie McCaw, one of the greatest wing forwards of all times, was probably between 100 and 105 kilos. So it's not about the weight
necessarily.
It helps, particularly if you make lots of carries. So you play to your strength. So Ruan Quinn, the amount of carries he makes in a match, and they're really explosive carries. Dermot Mangan was, he's very powerful and strong as well. He's probably up around 14, 15 kilos as well. So they're strong, powerful guys, but that's just the nature of way these players are built nowadays.
Was it the scrum in the mall that won it in the second half?
Was
the South African pack were getting tired.
Now, look, South Africa, they probably played well for 50-60 minutes against Georgia and for 30 minutes of the second half against Argentina. They were very inconsistent and uncharacteristically poor at defending mauls at scrum time. So you don't kind of associate a Springbok side who are weak in those areas. Ireland exposed them, and really kind of the scrum was outstanding yesterday. Really, really brilliant. I probably won the game from that physicality up front, but the scrum was a big, really important factor in the victory. So it's a brilliant pace for them, Shane. They again, given everything they've been through, they've kind of kept their focus, and to go out and beat the host nation like that yesterday and get into a final, and certainly look, they're up against it with France, who have been so good, but they'll have a chance. They'll really believe, and I think they've shown us when the shackles are off a little bit, they have a real go. So obviously they've got to get the fundamentals right and kind of step up around the set piece.
But you're saying the underdogs tag might actually suit them?
Yeah, I don't like the underdogs tag and that kind of mentality of we need it. We kind of played a lot with that before at times, and I always wanted to be the favourites and kind of go the other way and deal with the favourites tag. But no, of course, I think yes, everybody believes that France are a better side and probably the best side in the tournament. Ireland need to bring a kind of a 9 out of 10 performance to get a win, but I think they've a chance. They've a real good chance here, and that'll be exciting for them. And they've kind of got through what a return for these players if they were to win it. But I think if they were to come home and having been beaten in their final, I still think it's been a brilliant tournament for them.
Yeah, Friday is that final.
With that group of players that you've mentioned there, that influx of talent to the senior ranks, notably the win on Friday is not going to dictate their futures per se, based on the 2016 piece.
Not at all.
Is that a very attractive prospect for a future manager who may be based away?
Maybe based away in France, is it?
Would that be something that would steer him back to Ireland?
Oh yeah, you're talking. I think you're talking about Rog. I think yes, of course. If he was going to come back here at some stage,
that would be a reason to come back.
Of course, you look at the players, the quality of players. Some of these guys will probably end up going overseas because they might not all make it here. They might have to go away for a couple of years. He might sign one or two of them. Who knows? But I think Irish rugby is in a pretty healthy state.
Yeah.
Listen, in 3 months we'll probably be doom and gloom merchants again because maybe I will if we're knocked out in the quarterfinals. And the rugby haters will be happy, and who knows? But look, it's good. Lots of good young players. They won a Grand Slam last year as well. We mustn't forget, and a Grand Slam this year, and now in a final. So
next year's team is better, I'm told.
Okay, is it?
It's always coming. Yeah.
Next year's team is better again.
There's a good few of these guys underage. Evan O'Connell is. There's a number of them.
Future's bright. Quinny, we'll chat to you again before the final. Thanks a million for popping in. Sarah, a lot of love for you as well in the comments. Thanks a million for your help. Speak with my Cork hat on, says Aidan. Sarah needs to be in the presenting chair more often. We don't have enough Cork voices.
Tell him I live in Cork.
There you go.
I'm going to need a bigger budget.
There you go. It's tough done. Although the train apparently, as you say, is brilliant. But Sarah, thanks a million for everything this morning. Sarah Donovan alongside me for this morning's show. Coming up in tomorrow's show, we'll have Will O'Callaghan's updated hurling power rankings. John Duggan on the weekend's hurling as well. Disappointed Clare man. We've got the Clare blood, of course. Jenny Claffey in studio talking Wimbledon. Manchester United's latest takeover and transfer news. Plenty more besides as well. Right now, a classic crappy quiz to start your week off. Have a marvellous Monday.
OTB AM.
The Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball.
Chris Martin.
Oh, you're kidding me. September.
Kyle Lafferty.
Are you joking me?
Is that right?
I know.